Chapter 491. Its humongous body now stood there like a statue. The dazzling black crystal looked especially strange under the sunlight. The instant the black crystal collided with the Earth Dragon ancestor's body, the air that had previously distorted appeared once again. This time, it happened to cut off the Earth Dragon ancestor's pull, and at the same time, it blocked Ji-dong's charging body. Even though it was only for an instant, it was enough for Ji-dong to adjust and not collide with the Earth Dragon ancestor's body that had turned black. Mao Tai Wuliangye. Ji-dong bellowed and the air in front of him split apart. Through the summoning of their souls, the sacred evolution fire dragon appeared in front of him. Without any verbal communication, it carried Ji-dong's body and flew out diagonally. When it flew out, Ji-dong was almost lying on the back of the sacred evolution fire dragon. Whirr! Ji-dong lay on the back of the sacred evolution fire dragon and raised his right hand with difficulty. The vermilion bird bracelet emitted a golden red light. With a beautiful long tail, Whirr appeared in the sky out of thin air. At the same time, Ji-dong had already closed his eyes. Rays of silver light appeared out of thin air and quietly enveloped the black crystal Earth Dragon ancestor's body like a large net. The Earth Dragon ancestor would never have thought that Ji-dong would be able to unleash such an all-out attack in just 3 months' time. The Earth Dragon ancestor had always known that Ji-dong had been holding back his true strength. With how sharp his judgment was, he naturally knew that Ji-dong would always have some strength to spare. However, he never would have thought that Ji-dong would have the confidence to break through in such a short period of time. His sudden outburst had caught him completely off guard. The sacred evolution fire dragon did not pause at all. When Ji-dong released the dreamy silver domain, it had already twisted its body and flew away at high speed. Meanwhile, Whirr floated in midair. All the black on its body quietly retreated. Just like the three-legged golden crow that Ji-dong had faced before, its entire body blossomed with a brilliant golden light. Incomparably dense extreme yang fire exploded from its body. In the next moment, Whirr had already let out an extremely resonant phoenix cry. Blinding golden light seeped out of its body and formed a golden phoenix that was completely made of energy. It charged straight at the Earth Dragon ancestor's chest. It was the Phoenix Dancing Sunall. Once upon a time, the Phoenix Dancing Sunall required the combined strength of Ji-dong and Whirr. In the end, Ji-dong had to use it himself. Now, however, Whirr had completed the technique in an instant. Furthermore, it was very obvious that the Phoenix Dancing Sunall had reached the level of a basic ultimate killing technique when it used its full strength. Whirr was the vermilion bird's child. Although it currently possessed both the yin and yang fire attribute, when it used the yang fire demon technique, its bloodline would produce a certain bonus. Hence, although Whirr's body seemed to have a balance of yin and yang, when it used its techniques, the yang fire demon technique was actually slightly stronger. This strength came from the acknowledgement of the yang fire element in the air towards its vermilion bird bloodline. From the moment he soared into the air, Ji-dong had already made preparations. His seemingly sudden move was actually after careful consideration. Attacking the Earth Dragon ancestor and flying diagonally were all bait. As for the distorted air that shocked the Earth Dragon ancestor and blocked the Earth Dragon ancestor's attack, it was an additional technique that he had obtained after leveling up the deity annihilation strike to the 6th stage. It was called the God Annihilation Wall. The effect of the God Annihilation Wall was very simple. It instantly blocked all forms of energy. No matter what level of attack, within the range of the deity annihilation strike, there would be a moment of pause. At the same time, it blocked all spiritual waves. The original function of the God Annihilation Wall was that when the person with the deity annihilation strike attacked, the enemy would escape and not let them get close. With the God Annihilation Wall blocking, there would naturally be a chance to get close to the enemy. If it was used for defense, it would be like what Ji-dong had displayed earlier to block the enemy's soul lock, giving himself a chance to dodge. The God Annihilation Wall didn't seem as direct as the God Annihilation Attraction. However, after Ji Dong's continuous exploration and simulation in his heart, he understood that the God Annihilation Wall was actually more useful than the God Annihilation Attraction. Although it could only block for an instant, according to the Awaken technique, this instant was absolute. In other words, even if he encountered a God rank expert, it could also block them for an instant. What made Ji Dong even more ecstatic was that the God Annihilation Wall had another extremely good feature, and that was its usage. The range of the God Annihilation Wall was within a radius of 50 meters around Ji Dong's body. Its usage was driven by his thoughts. In other words, when Ji Dong wanted to use the God Annihilation Wall, as long as he willed it, a God Annihilation Wall could appear anywhere within the radius of 50 meters. Of course, there was only one side. When this God Annihilation Wall disappeared due to the opponent's attack, there would be a cooldown period of 10 breath. After that, it could be used again. In a battle between experts, victory or defeat would often be decided in a split second. If one could stop the opponent for a split second, or block the opponent's attack for a split second, it could save one's life. Moreover, this split second that the God Annihilation Wall blocked was only for enemies whose cultivation base was higher than Ji Dong's. If the opponent's strength was insufficient, then the duration of the God Annihilation Wall naturally wouldn't be as simple as a split second. It could last for a maximum of 3 seconds. It would be invisible and formless, completely a pure change in the air. Ji Dong had also roughly figured out the principle of the God Annihilation Wall. In fact, it was to make use of Ji Dong's spiritual power to instantly produce control over the air, causing the air to be highly compressed like the God Annihilation strike that he had used. Hence, Ji Dong placed a lot of importance on this skill. In order to not let the Earth Dragon ancestor discover it, he had been secretly practicing it in his heart. Today, when he suddenly used it, it was as he had expected, and it shocked the Earth Dragon ancestor. In fact, even Ji Dong himself didn't know that if he continued to practice this God Annihilation strike, he would only be able to produce the next skill when he reached the 7th tier. The reason why Ji Dong was able to trigger the appearance of this God Annihilation Wall was because of his spiritual power. The conditions for the appearance of the God Annihilation Wall wasn't just to cultivate to the 6th tier of the God Annihilation strike. At the same time, when he reached the 6th tier of the God Annihilation strike, he also needed to have saint-level spiritual power in order to obtain this skill. Once the God Annihilation strike broke through to the 7th tier, even if his spiritual power reached the saint level, the God Annihilation Wall wouldn't appear anymore. After all, the usage of this skill depended more on the control of spiritual power. Ji Dong was lucky. The benefits of this skill had already been fully displayed. First, it shocked the Earth Dragon ancestor. Then, it helped Ji Dong block the pulling force of the Earth Dragon ancestor temporarily. It played a crucial role in this scheme. And when Ji Dong flew out previously, everything that he did, at least everything that the Earth Dragon ancestor felt, was actually an illusion. In his Tai Chi demonic territory, he had already used the fantasy silver demonic territory to make the Earth Dragon ancestor look like he was using all his spiritual power to escape. But in fact, with the effect of the fantasy silver demonic territory, for a short period of time, Ji Dong could even block the Earth Dragon ancestor's spiritual power from probing. He converted all his spiritual power into ultimate Yin fire. Through the Yin-Yang fire condensation array and the absorption of the fire element in the air by the Tai Chi demonic territory, he forcefully raised his power to the extreme and used the ultimate killer skill, Ice of the Great Yu Flame. Although his cultivation had broken through to the 8 crowns, Ji Dong still almost exhausted his spiritual power when he used this demonic skill. This was even with the help of the power of the demonic territory and the effect of the 5 elements array. However, he finally used his own power to release this powerful attack. Of course, it was not at the level of the ultimate killer skill combined with the dragon and phoenix attack, but it had reached the level of an advanced ultimate killer skill. What was more powerful was that with the binding of the powerful spiritual power of the fantasy silver demonic territory, he forcibly imprisoned this skill in the crystal that the Earth Dragon ancestor saw. Only at the most crucial moment did he push the skill out, or rather, let the Earth Dragon ancestor grab it himself. Although the Earth Dragon ancestor was strong, it was not easy to deal with the bombardment of this ultimate killer skill. Just as Ji Dong had predicted, it was successfully sealed in ice. Of course, with the Earth Dragon ancestor being at the peak of the sage level, it could release its own ultimate killer skill. This gigantic ice of Yu flame was naturally unable to trap it, but what Ji Dong wanted was this short period of time. In the first second after the Earth Dragon ancestor was sealed in ice, Ji Dong summoned the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon and the Eclipse Phoenix at the same time. In the second, the Earth Dragon ancestor's body had already emitted a crisp explosion. Fine cracks had already begun to appear on the black crystal. And it was also at this moment that the Eclipse Phoenix, who had long received Ji Dong's message and was waiting, released its phoenix dancing sunall and went straight for the Earth Dragon ancestor's chest. At this moment, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon was already flying at high speed. It used this second to bring Ji Dong 100 meters away. At the same time, it accelerated at full speed towards itself. In the third second, with a loud shattering sound, the gigantic ice of Yu flame on the Earth Dragon ancestor's body exploded and shattered. The ultimate Een fire's fragments scattered in all directions. And it was also at this moment that Horror's phoenix dancing sunall arrived. Although the Earth Dragon ancestor had forcefully broken free from the gigantic ice of Yu flame's restraints, it was still an attack that had concentrated all of Ji Dong's magic power. It was also an ultimate killer skill. Its body had also been injected with a large amount of ultimate Een fire, causing its body to stiffen. And at this moment, the phoenix dancing sunall directly struck its chest without any fancy moves. The timing of the phoenix dancing sunall's arrival could be said to be perfect. It just happened to merge with the shattered gigantic ice of Yu flame. In that instant, the sun and moon appeared in the sky at the same time. A blinding black and white brilliance appeared along with Horror's Tai Chi demonic territory. It spiraled and turned into a huge light pillar, directly bombarding the Earth Dragon ancestor's body. That was not all. A portion of the phoenix dancing sunall's ultimate Yang fire had also penetrated the Earth Dragon ancestor's body. It merged with the ultimate Een fire that had yet to be expelled. It could be said that it was an internal and external collision, completely unleashing its power. Under normal circumstances, it would be very difficult for Horror to use an attack at the level of the phoenix dancing sunall to break through the Earth Dragon ancestor's defenses, let alone the aura of the ultimate Yang fire that had rushed into its body. However, it was different now. Although the gigantic ice of Yu flame's attack did not really corrode its body, its defenses on the surface had been greatly weakened, which was why it was in such a state. The intense pain enraged the Earth Dragon ancestor. Amidst the loud rumbling sounds, the Earth Dragon ancestor roared into the sky. Its massive body trembled violently, and its most fundamental Earth attribute was completely unleashed. The gray scales on its body, which looked like mountain rocks, instantly shattered and scattered in all directions. It was as if a mountain had exploded. At the same time, a dazzling, resplendent light erupted from within. Under the illumination of the sun, it actually released a rainbow of colors. Countless rumbling sounds were continuously released from its body. A terrifying saint-level pressure caused the world to lose its color. The sun and moon that appeared at the same time disappeared into thin air at the very next moment. The entire world seemed to have turned into a gloomy cloud, just like the Earth Dragon ancestor's current mood. Amidst the loud rumbling sounds, all the dust and gravel in the air instantly stopped moving. At the same time, Other than the earth element in the air, the entire three united mountain range, and the sky above the three united mountain range, apart from the Dragon Valley, were only left with the earth element. That's right, only the earth element was left. Water, fire, wood, and metal. The four elements had vanished into thin air just like that. If all the elements had vanished, it would instead be less shocking. It was possible to achieve this temporarily with the help of chaotic force. However, it was extremely difficult to produce such an effect in such a large area. Moreover, there was still one element left in the vast world. Achieving this was so difficult that even the Dragon Emperor knew that he definitely could not achieve it. The Demon Domain. This was the power that belonged to the Demon Domain. In its fury, the Earth Dragon ancestor had actually used its Demon Domain. The Demon Domain that the royal bloodline of the Dragon clan had inherited was the Dragon Drill Tyrannical Demon Domain. As the Fire Dragon Saint had inherited its mother's fire attribute, it did not inherit the Demon Domain. Clearly, what the Earth Dragon ancestor was using was not the Dragon Drill Tyrannical Demon Domain either. When it was sealed here, its original infernal domain had already been stripped away. What it was displaying now was the infernal domain that it had created after comprehending the five elements for thousands of years. Compared to the Dragon Drill Tyrannical Infernal Domain, it was in no way inferior. The name of this infernal domain was Elemental Stripping. As long as the Earth Dragon ancestor was willing, it could strip away all the elements it did not need or wanted to strip away within its range of control. The Demon Domain did not seem particularly powerful, nor did it have any offensive or defensive capabilities. However, it must not be forgotten that it had stripped away a total of 4 elements, leaving one behind. Moreover, it covered an extremely large area. It encompassed the entire three united mountain range. Chapter 492. The Three Unity Mountain Range was located within the borders of the three empires. One could imagine how vast it was. If tens of thousands of magic masters entered this place and wanted to harm the dragons, the Dragon Emperor would only need to unleash this demon domain to ensure that they would never be able to return. After stripping away all the magic elements, the magic masters would not be able to communicate with the elements between heaven and earth. With the little bit of demon domain that they possessed, they would probably be exhausted after using 1 or 2 skills. They would only be able to fight with their bodies, and without magic, the magic masters would probably be weaker than a regular army. How many earth dragons were there in the Three Unity Mountain Range? How many giant dragons were there? The powerful bodies of the dragons could be fully unleashed in the elemental stripping demon domain. It was precisely because of this that it was not wrong to say that the Earth Dragon ancestor was the guardian of the dragons. The reason why the Earth Dragon ancestor had used the elemental stripping demon's domain was simple. It was injured and enraged. Under the combined efforts of Ji Dong and Huer, the internal and external attacks of the ultimate dual flames had intersected. The explosive power produced by the fusion of yin and yang was terrifying. Even the Earth Dragon ancestor had been caught off guard. The rocks on the surface of its body were completely corroded and shattered. In fact, if it was just the bombardment of these demonic skills, it was not impossible for the Earth Dragon ancestor to block them with its strong body and terrifying magic. However, the problem was that when these demonic skills were unleashed, it suddenly lost control of its own body for a moment. Jidong's elemental fantasy silver demon domain could confuse its opponent and cause them to self-destruct in the demon domain. However, it was obvious that if this demon domain were to be used on the Earth Dragon ancestor, it would not have any effect at all. The Earth Dragon ancestor's spiritual energy was too powerful. Therefore, what Jidong needed to do was very simple. He needed to use his elemental fantasy silver demon domain to envelop the Earth Dragon ancestor's body while it was being sealed by his great serenity flaming ice. He would then attach himself to the Earth Dragon ancestor and, at the most crucial moment, cut off the Earth Dragon ancestor's ability to control its body. If not for the concealment of the glacial flame ice, Ji Dong would not have been able to do this. However, there was no doubt that his bold assumption was successful. That moment of stagnation had affected the process of the Earth Dragon ancestor's channeling of mana. Hence, it was really taken advantage of by the ultimate dual fire. Under the internal and external attacks, it had injured its body. It had been many years since the Earth Dragon ancestor had experienced the feeling of being injured. Being injured so suddenly, it was more of a shock, followed by anger. It was actually injured just like that? Could it be that he had already become so weak? In its rage, it refused to let Ji Dong escape its control no matter what. Hence, it used the elemental stripping domain immediately. Fire, who was closest to the Earth Dragon ancestor, felt it the most clearly when the four major elements were stripped away. Not only did the fire elements around its body disappear, but even its Tai Chi demon domain also disappeared. Even a portion of the mana in its body was stripped away and disappeared into the air. Fire only felt that its body had suddenly become heavy. In its shock, it hurriedly flapped its wings in an attempt to fly away. However, in the next moment, a tyrannical suction force had already appeared. If not for the elemental stripping, it might have been able to resist for a while. However, at this moment it had just released a super-ultimate skill, and the mana in its body had been greatly depleted and could not be replenished. It had no ability to resist at all, and was already caught by the Earth Dragon ancestor's huge dragon claw. The entire process took no more than 6 to 7 seconds, but the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon had already flown diagonally with Ji Dong, and was about to exceed the range of 3,000 meters. In the first second, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon rushed out 200 meters. In the next second, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's speed was fully unleashed. In the blink of an eye, Ji Dong could even hear a sonic boom in the air. In that instant, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's speed broke through the sound barrier. In just a short 6 or 7 seconds, it had already flown nearly 3,000 meters. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon let out another furious roar as it grabbed fire with its left claw. Instantly, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon that was flying at high speed slowed down, and a yellow halo appeared around its body. Due to the great distance and the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's speed, the Earth Dragon ancestor wouldn't be able to catch them if he only relied on mana to pull them back. However, the Earth Dragon ancestor instantly used an instant cast skill on the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon. There were no other elemental attributes in the air, and only the Earth element was left. Naturally, the amplification of Earth attribute magic skills was also great. The skill that the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon was hit with was an Earth attribute gravity increase skill. It was a very simple but very practical skill. No matter what kind of skill it was definitely not something that could be compared to an ordinary saint-level powerhouse like the Earth Dragon ancestor. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon only felt its body become heavy, and its speed dropped instantly. It was already 3,000 meters away, but it could not speed up no matter what. Under the pressure of the increased gravity, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon naturally had to use all its mana to resist. However, it could not communicate with the fire element between heaven and earth, so it could not replenish its mana. Wasn't it a fool's dream to compete with the Earth Dragon ancestor in terms of stamina? Although the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon was already 3,000 meters away, it was still unable to escape from the Earth Dragon ancestor's control. Ji Dong's heart was filled with admiration. In the short span of 10 seconds, he had already used all his skills, including his intelligence. It could be said that he had used all his power to its fullest. However, it seemed that he still might not be able to break through the Earth Dragon ancestor's control. Moreover, what he had done just now could not be repeated in the future. Once the ancestor of the Earth Dragon was on guard, not to mention the 3,000 meters in front of him, He might not even be able to rush out of the 1,000 meters. A peak saint was indeed too powerful. At this moment, the sacred evolution fire dragon unleashed its ruthlessness. Its body suddenly twisted in the air, and it slapped the air violently. It was its ultimate hand-to-hand combat skill, the sacred evolution hammer. Its body rubbed against the air, and an explosive sound was heard. Immediately after, its talent skill transmigration was used. Despite the increased gravity, the sacred evolution fire dragon still brought the sacred evolution fire dragon hundreds of meters away. Then, the sacred evolution fire dragon twisted its body in the air, and it swung its head, forcefully flinging Ji-dong's body out. Ji-dong's body was not affected by the increased gravity. Moreover, the sacred evolution fire dragon used all its might to throw Ji-dong 200 meters away in an instant. At this moment, Ji-dong was already 3,300 meters away from the Earth Dragon ancestor. Under the increased gravity, the sacred evolution fire dragon had no choice but to descend to the ground. It could no longer bring him along. In the air, Ji-dong took a deep breath. In the few seconds before the Earth Dragon ancestor used element stripping, the mana in his body had recovered somewhat. Although it was less than 10%, it was no problem for him to maintain the dragon snake transformation. The wings on his back spread out, and with a powerful flap, he continued to fly diagonally towards the sky. Good lad! The rage in the Earth Dragon ancestor's eyes had subsided a little. Looking at Ji-dong, who was flying diagonally, it snorted. It was not that it could not blast Ji-dong down, but with a distance of more than 3,000 meters, it had to at least use a high-level surekill skill to have a chance of hitting Ji-dong. And the Ji-dong in front of it obviously could not withstand such an attack. In other words, the Earth Dragon ancestor now had the confidence to destroy Ji-dong, but it had no way of capturing him back. Ji-dong, lad, don't blame me for not warning you. I'll count to 10. If you don't fly back, I'll cripple this mutated little phoenix of yours. The sacred evolution fire dragon is my descendant, so I naturally won't make things difficult for you, but this little phoenix is not my descendant. It has the bloodline of the vermilion bird, but even if the vermilion bird comes, what can it do to me? The Earth Dragon ancestor's eyes were fixed on Ji-dong, and it had already started counting. 1, there's no need to count, I admit defeat. Don't hurt little fire. Ji-dong's weak voice came from afar. He had already stopped flying into the distance, turned around, and glided slowly towards the Earth Dragon ancestor. The Earth Dragon ancestor did not use any more skills on him, and just watched him glide towards it. Even it found it a little funny. Throughout the process of Ji-dong landing, it had been paying close attention to all of Ji-dong's movements, afraid that it would be tricked again. To be able to make it pay so much attention, this lad was already capable. Ji-dong landed on the ground with a remorseful look on his face. He looked up at the Earth Dragon ancestor and said, "Let go of little fire. I don't even have 10% of my mana now, I can't do anything else." The Earth Dragon ancestor let go of its dragon claw and flung Little Fire into the sky. Little Fire spread its wings and soared into the sky. After letting out a few angry phoenix cries, it flew back into Ji-dong's vermilion bird bracelet reluctantly and fearfully. With Ji-dong's return, the increase in gravity on the sacred evolution fire dragon's body naturally disappeared. It flew back and circled behind Ji-dong, looking at the Earth Dragon ancestor cautiously, afraid that the Earth Dragon ancestor would harm Ji-dong in anger. The Earth Dragon ancestor looked at Ji-dong, and its eyes flickered. After a while, it suddenly laughed and said, "Brat, now I know why the Dragon Sovereign taught you such a lesson. I didn't win today, and if you didn't come back, you could have already escaped from my control. I didn't expect you to be so tolerant, brat. You only played all your trump cards just now, and you actually have 2 magical beasts. Also, tell me, what method did you use to break my soul lock just now?" Ji-dong looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor and smiled. "That's a secret I can't tell you." You really won't tell me? The Earth Dragon ancestor snorted. Ji-dong shook his head. I'm determined not to tell you. The Earth Dragon ancestor suddenly lowered its head and looked at Ji-dong. How about this? I'll trade with you. You tell me how you broke my soul lock, and I'll teach you something. Teach me. Ji-dong was overjoyed, but on the surface, he still looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor calmly. What can you teach me? Although you have 3 elements, if I remember correctly, the fire element isn't one of them, right? The Earth Dragon ancestor snorted. So what if it isn't? Am I not allowed to teach you? Brat, do you think the air here is comfortable? Ji-dong said, There's only the earth element left. How can it be comfortable? If I'm not wrong, this should be your demon's realm, right? The only earth element? The Earth Dragon ancestor raised its head and said in disdain, The only earth element is nothing. This daddy's demon's realm is called elemental stripping. Whichever element I want to exist, that element will exist, and whichever element I want to disappear, that element will disappear. Isn't it awesome? Ji-dong looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor and was slightly stunned, but he still nodded his head in the end and said seriously, Awesome, it's really awesome. Actually, if I hadn't resorted to trickery, I wouldn't have been able to escape within 3,000 meters today. The Earth Dragon ancestor shook his head and said, Don't talk to me about trickery. I've trapped you here and restricted your freedom. It's unfair to you in the first place. Be it in terms of age or cultivation, you and I are worlds apart. Under such circumstances, you should be proud of yourself for being able to charge more than 3,000 meters into the sky under my control, no matter what methods you use. I dare say that in the entire dragon race, other than the Dragon Emperor, no one can do that. Even the Dragon Emperor would have to pay a huge price to break free from my control. So, brat, everything you've done just now can be considered a miracle. Ji-dong smiled faintly and said, The word miracle has appeared on me too many times. Senior, just tell me directly. What do you want in exchange for the information that blocked your soul lock-on skill? If the conditions are agreeable, we can negotiate. The Earth Dragon ancestor snorted and said, Don't worry with my status, why would I take advantage of you? The conditions that I can state are naturally not something you can refuse. That is, I'll teach you my elemental stripping demon's realm. How about it? After hearing the words of the Earth Dragon ancestor, even the tone of Ji-dong's voice changed. He looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor in a daze, unable to speak for a moment. The demon's realm can be taught? That was the first question that came to Ji-dong's mind. In the next moment, his heart began to burn uncontrollably. One could well imagine the powerful effects of the elemental stripping demon's realm. To him, it could definitely help him raise his abilities to another level. Furthermore, he already had 2 demons' realms, and the elemental stripping demon's realm did not clash with the one he already had. If he could really learn it, then his cultivation would definitely be able to reach a whole new level. With such a huge attraction, how could Ji-dong not be tempted? Chapter 493. The Earth Dragon ancestor chuckled. How about it? I'm right, aren't I? Aren't you going to bring those little fellas to the core? Don't think that you can run wild in the core just because you have some ability now. I can tell you for sure that with your current abilities, the moment you enter the core and go below the 10th level, I'm afraid that none of you will be able to come back alive. Of course, if you learn my elemental stripping demon territory, then it'll be a different story. Although you won't be able to roam the core unhindered, it shouldn't be a problem for you to protect yourself. Quick, tell me what ability you used just now. Ji-dong looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor and couldn't help but ask, Senior, can you really teach the demon territory? I've never heard of it. It can be learned. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon snorted. That's because you're ignorant and inexperienced. Who said that the infernal domain can't be learned? My infernal domain of elemental stripping was created by me, and not awakened by myself. You've heard my story that day as well. I was the first Dragon Emperor, and the infernal domain that I originally possessed was naturally the same as the current Dragon Emperor's, a Dragon Diamond tyrannical domain. After I was sealed here, do you think that they would still leave this Dragon Diamond tyrannical domain for me? If that's the case, can this place trap me? My demon territory has long since been stripped away when I was sealed here. This elemental stripping demon territory is something that I've gradually cultivated after thousands of years of thinking and experimentation. Unless the Dragon Emperor can cultivate to the same level as me, even if he uses the Dragon Drill Overlord demon territory, he won't be able to reverse my elemental stripping demon territory. He'll still be affected by the elemental stripping demon territory. How about it? Do you want to learn it or not? Be quick. Yes, I'll learn it. Ji Dong agreed without hesitation. He wasn't afraid that the Earth Dragon Ancestor would lie to him. With the Earth Dragon Ancestor's cultivation and strength, there was no need for him to do that. If he wanted to kill Ji Dong, it couldn't be any easier. Then tell me, how did you do it before? You should know that if you didn't have the ability to sever my soul lock and affect my mind, you wouldn't have succeeded. Ji Dong nodded and said, "You're right. My motive at that time was to use the God-destroying wall to influence your judgment and make you curious so that you would relax your guard against my detection. Even when you used your mana to guide me back, all my struggles were just an act to lure you into taking the bait." The Earth Dragon Ancestor said angrily, "Get to the point, what is this God-vanquishing wall?" Then, Ji Dong didn't hide anything. He told the Earth Dragon Ancestor how he obtained the God-vanquishing strike and the process of cultivating it. He talked about how he improved the God-vanquishing wall to the 6th level and obtained the God-vanquishing wall. Hearing Ji Dong's words, the Earth Dragon Ancestor fell into deep thought and didn't speak for a long time. After a long time, he slowly moved on to Hyoheim and sighed, "Kid, you're really blessed by the heavens. If I'm not wrong, the God-vanquishing strike you learned belongs to the category of creation godly skills." Creation godly skill? What's that? Ji Dong asked curiously. The Earth Dragon Ancestor chuckled and said, "You've asked the right person. In this world, I'm afraid I'm the only one who knows what a creation godly skill is. The so-called creation godly skill isn't the skill of the gods, it's a skill used to restrict the gods. The gods do exist in this world, but unless it's under extremely special circumstances, the gods in the realm of the gods are not allowed to come to the human world." Ji Dong's face darkened and he nodded silently. Of course, he knew what the Earth Dragon Ancestor was talking about. Wasn't the flaming bar killed by the god of slaughter, Shupnus? The Earth Dragon Ancestor looked at him in shock and said, "It seems like you know about the existence of the gods?" Ji Dong said, "Ajin didn't tell you about me?" The Earth Dragon Ancestor shook his head and looked at Ji Dong with great interest. He said, "Whenever I mention you, that girl will change the subject and won't tell me at all. But I can tell that she likes you very much. Otherwise, why would I let you stay and let you off so easily?" Ji Dong was currently immersed in the memories of the battle between the Flaming Bar and Shupnus, so he didn't notice the meaning in the Earth Dragon Ancestor's words. He murmured, "Back then, my flaming bar died in the hands of the gods." Under the Earth Dragon Ancestor's shocked gaze, Ji Dong started from the battle on the Holy Evil Island, how the flaming bar saved the entire Radiant Five Elements mainland, but was killed by Shupnus, and how he sealed Shupnus. The memories of the process were too painful for him, so he didn't go into too much detail during the whole process. Even so, the Earth Dragon Ancestor was still extremely shocked. He said, "The Flaming Bar Empress has actually cultivated to the level of a level 2 god. The core world is indeed blessed by the heavens. It's a pity that I didn't get to see her with my own eyes. If I could spar with her, perhaps I would have a chance to break free from the shackles in front of me. Sigh, it's all too late. These *T gods of the immortal realm are simply out of their minds, sending people to kill the Flaming Bar Empress indiscriminately. However, this rule of the immortal realm is targeted at the core world, not Her Majesty the Flaming Bar Empress. After knowing that the Flaming Bar Empress had cultivated to the level of a god, even the Earth Dragon ancestor couldn't help but address her respectfully. Targeted at the core world? Why? Jidong looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor and asked. The Earth Dragon ancestor said, "The reason is simple. The core world is too blessed by the heavens. You humans have a good saying, concentrated is the essence. You've been to the core world yourself, so you naturally know how rich the fire element there is. Under such circumstances, the creatures of the core world are blessed by the heavens in their cultivation compared to other creatures. As long as a few talented geniuses appear, they can really break through to the god realm, just like the Flame Tyrant and the Dark Flame Devil King. In the end, it was the Flaming Bar Empress who succeeded in breaking through to the god realm and killed the two of them. It's precisely because the conditions of the core world are too blessed by the heavens. Once such a heaven-defying powerhouse appears, it's very likely that it will bring an irreversible disaster to the surface world, or even threaten the rule of the immortal realm. Her Majesty the Flaming Bar Empress is an example. She's no longer an ordinary god, but a level 2 god who can fight against the hunters of the immortal realm. If it wasn't for your incident and she was given sufficient time, who knows what level she could have cultivated to. Jidong said sadly, "Let's not talk about this. Senior, please continue to talk about the godly skill of creation." The ancestor of the Earth Dragon said, "At the beginning of the chaos, our world was born. As for where it came from, no one can say for sure, not even the gods in the sky. After our world was born, various races gradually appeared. At that time, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was incomparably abundant, and the first races gradually perfected our world. Our dragon race didn't exist at the beginning, but after a period of nurturing in the world, we came into existence. Among those first races, there were some experts who were blessed by the heavens, and after continuous cultivation, they could rise to another level. This is the so-called gods. I once saw a relic left behind by a god, and according to him, the divine realm is a level above our world. There are not only gods who ascended from our world, there are also gods from other worlds. When a world is created, and when there are gods, there may be a godly skill of creation. The power of the gods is too strong, so they can only live in the divine realm. You should understand that if the power of a god is used in the human world, it is a terrifying thing. The godly skill of creation is a skill that restrains the gods, and it is said that it was born naturally at the beginning of the chaos. Legend has it that there are 5 supremes in the divine realm, and they control the entire divine realm. The reason why they are able to subdue the gods is because each of the 5 supremes has at least one godly skill of creation. Jidong looked at the ancestor of the Earth Dragon in shock, and said, "Are you going to tell me that my god-slaying strike is a skill that only the supremes in the divine realm can possess?" The ancestor of the Earth Dragon nodded, and said, "According to the relic left behind by that god, your god-slaying strike should be a godly skill of creation. In the relic left behind by that god, the greatest characteristic of the godly skill of creation is that it can continue to awaken skills within the skill itself. Think about it, other than the god-slaying strike, do you have any other skills that can self-awaken skills? Anyway, I have lived for thousands of years, and this is the first time I have encountered such a situation." Hearing this reminder from the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, Jidong recalled that it was indeed as he had said. Other than the god-slaying strike, there was no other skill that could self-awaken and evolve to the next level. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon continued, "However, I am not sure whether this so-called godly skill of creation really exists. After all, this is just the words left behind by that so-called god. You don't have to worry too much about it. After all, your god-slaying strike has been cultivated to the 6th level, and at most, it has the power to injure a saint, but it is not enough to determine the outcome of the battle. When you cultivate to the 9th level, you will naturally understand whether this godly skill of creation really exists. If you think too much about it now, it will instead restrict your future development. Do you understand what I mean? Skills are dead, but humans are alive. In the process of battle, you can maintain a clear mind, and you can always create strange tactics. This is what gives me the most headaches. The God-slaying strike can be used as your trump card, but the other skills are equally important. Although the God-slaying strike is good, the improvement of your own mana is more important. I dare say that even if you cultivate the God-slaying strike to the 9th level, if you do not have the support of God-level mana, you will still not be able to truly slay a god. Listening to the words of the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, Ji Dong nodded continuously, looking at him with more respect. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon was right. If he placed too much importance on the god-slaying strike and really thought that he would be invincible with this so-called godly skill of creation, then he would be destroyed sooner or later. No matter how strong the god-slaying strike was, it had its own limitations. In order to fully unleash it, he would first need to be strong enough and have other skills to complement it. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon laughed heartily. Since it is the effect of the godly skill of creation, then it is not unjust for you to escape. All right, you have told me what I want to know. Now, it is time for me to impart the demon realm to you. Ji Dong, stand up straight, close your eyes, and guard your soul. Do not let it out at all. Ji Dong lifted his head and looked at the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, then did as he was told. There was no need for Ji Dong to be on his guard against the ancestor of the Earth Dragon. If the ancestor of the Earth Dragon wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as pie. It could be said that this was a strange form of trust. Looking at Ji Dong in front of him, the ancestor of the Earth Dragon's big yellow eyes revealed a hint of disappointment. He slowly raised his right claw and pressed it down in the direction of Ji Dong. Suddenly, the air distorted violently. Ji Dong only felt his body tighten, as if he had been tightly wrapped by something. This force was extremely strong, binding his body, causing him to be unable to release any form of energy. In the next moment, his body slowly floated up under the influence of this strong binding force. Ji Dong did not move. He had never heard of imparting the demon realm, let alone seen it. Naturally, he did not know what the ancestor of the Earth Dragon was going to do. He followed the instructions of the ancestor of the Earth Dragon and closed his eyes, relaxed his body, and retracted his soul, waiting quietly. At this moment, Ji Dong suddenly felt a chill run through his body. A strange force brushed past the surface of his body. He immediately felt that the clothes on his body had turned into ashes and disappeared. His body was completely naked. I need to take off my clothes to impart the demon realm? Ji Dong was a little surprised. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon removed Ji Dong's clothes in the blink of an eye. Its big yellow eyes began to turn solemn. Not far away, the sacred evolution fire dragon had already stood up vigilantly and was observing the situation. However, it could not do anything even if it wanted to. The powerful aura released by the ancestor of the Earth Dragon made it impossible for it to get close. Powerful mana waves were released in the next moment. A layer of yellow light was like a ball of light, encircling Ji Dong's body. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon had already raised its other claw. It suddenly took a deep breath, and in the next moment, it grabbed the right claw that was controlling Ji Dong to float in the air. The huge left claw stabbed into the right claw. At this moment, it seemed as if the entire 3-Unity mountain range trembled slightly. Chapter 494. The Earth Dragon ancestor's left claw pierced through its right claw, and a powerful destructive force was unleashed on its body. However, the eyes of the Earth Dragon ancestor were still as calm as ever, as though it wasn't stabbing into its own body at all. Drops of golden-red liquid flowed out of the wound on the right claw of the Earth Dragon ancestor, dripping down from the sky towards the yellow sphere of light that was restraining Ji Dong. Strangely enough, when the golden-red blood dripped onto the sphere of light, it would naturally seep into it. The body of the Earth Dragon ancestor was so huge that a single drop of blood was enough for Ji Dong to feel liquid dripping onto his body. The liquid was scorching hot and even soothing. It flowed down from his head to his feet. What's going on? Ji Dong had his eyes closed, and he couldn't use his soul to check. Although he was puzzled, he couldn't understand what was happening. However, he wasn't in a hurry, and continued to relax his body, waiting quietly. Drop after drop of blood dripped down from the claw of the Earth Dragon ancestor. The yellow sphere of light that was enveloping Ji Dong was like a container, constantly carrying the drops of dragon blood. The dragon blood seeped into Ji Dong's body, and began to gather at his feet. Gradually, it soaked his entire body, from his feet to his calves, then to his waist, and all the way up. Ji Dong didn't know what this boiling hot liquid was, but he could clearly feel waves of hot air seeping into his body from the liquid. Even his Phoenix Dance Dragon Snake transformation couldn't stop the aura of this liquid at all. His nose twitched slightly. How sensitive was Ji Dong's sense of smell? What he smelled was a thick fragrance. This fragrance was very strange. Ji Dong had always been sensitive to all sorts of smells, and as long as he smelled it once, he would never forget it. However, he was certain that this fragrance was something he had never smelled before. Ji Dong's body had been soaked in the blood of a rank 10 giant dragon, Frost. However, how could the dragon race's bloodline compare to the Earth Dragon ancestor? Its blood was completely salty and fishy. Although the Earth Dragon ancestor had been sealed here for countless years, the blood that flowed in its body was the blood of the dragon race's primogenitor, which was also the purest bloodline of the dragon race. It was using this blood to soak Ji Dong's body. That fragrance seemed to be a light fragrance. Smelling it, Ji Dong's first impression was that it was noble. Even in his previous life, he had never smelled such a fragrance that exuded a noble aura. This feeling was very wonderful. It was as if at this moment, he was standing in a magnificent and luxurious hall, receiving the worship of tens of thousands of people. Just what is the Earth Dragon ancestor doing? The doubts in Ji Dong's heart grew stronger. He had no idea what the Earth Dragon ancestor was using to soak his body. What did this have to do with imparting the demon domain? In his opinion, imparting the demon domain should be a communication between souls. The Earth Dragon ancestor would tell him the method of cultivating and using the demon domain, and then let him cultivate continuously. Then, he would possess the demon domain that could strip away the element. However, at this moment, it didn't feel like that was the case. He had no idea what the Earth Dragon ancestor was going to do. Finally, the drops of blood flowed over Ji Dong's neck and completely soaked his body. He could no longer breathe because of the blood. The Earth Dragon ancestor pulled out his left claw from his right claw contentedly. When the last drop of dragon blood landed on the yellow ball of light and filled it up completely, it was also the moment when the wound on the Earth Dragon ancestor's right claw automatically healed. The Earth Dragon ancestor exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His eyes clearly became tired as he mumbled to himself, "Boy Ji Dong, I hope my efforts weren't in vain. My daughter, whether or not you can capture this boy's heart is up to you. Daddy can only make him your protector, but I can't change his mind and make him your lover." The sacred evolution fire dragon was still staring at the Earth Dragon ancestor. However, there was no longer any hostility. Instead, it looked greedily at the golden red blood in the golden ball of light in the sky. It crawled forward quietly and watched from below. The Earth Dragon ancestor scolded with a smile, "You little thing, you've mutated to the point that even I can't recognize you. Don't worry, you won't be lacking in benefits. No matter what, you're still my descendant." At that moment, Ji-dong could no longer hear anything from the outside world. At that moment, even if he wanted to open his eyes or release his spiritual power, he could no longer do so. His body was completely surrounded by viscous liquid. He could no longer breathe, and even moving his body became difficult. When he turned over slightly, he could clearly feel the viscous liquid around him pressing against his body. Meanwhile, the heat that had previously scalded his body and made him feel extremely comfortable was starting to get hotter and hotter. Coupled with the fact that he could no longer breathe, the comfort gradually turned into pain. With Ji-dong's cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for him to not breathe for an hour. However, he was not in a normal situation now. The liquid around him was constantly surging with heat, making it impossible for him to focus and adjust his body to resist the problem of not being able to breathe. In just a short while, his entire body was already swollen. The feeling of suffocation made him feel like his body was about to explode. The intense pain made him subconsciously start to struggle, wanting to break out of the binding formation in front of him. However, how could the Earth Dragon ancestor let him succeed? Circles of golden halos continuously surged out from the Earth Dragon ancestor's right claw and landed on the golden ball of light, strengthening its resistance. No matter how hard Ji-dong struggled, or even released his mana to break through the golden ball of light, he was unable to do so. Even his deity annihilation strike, which was aimed at the returning light ball, was ineffective. The reason was simple. The power of the deity annihilation strike was attacking the essence through the surface. This ball of light only had one layer, so how could there be any essence for him to attack? His mana could only leak out through the ball of light. The pain was getting more and more intense, and Ji-dong's struggles were getting more and more intense. In the beginning, he only struggled with his body, then he started to use his mana, and finally, he released all his mana. The intense pain seemed to be tearing every cell in his body. He could no longer bear it. He only felt that he could explode and die at any time. What made Ji-dong the most uncomfortable was that his powerful Saint-tier soul power could not be released at all. There seemed to be a mystical power in the viscous liquid that prevented his soul power from leaking out. The Earth Dragon ancestor's tired gaze was focused on Ji-dong's movements in the ball of light. He had also been strengthening the defense of the ball of light without relaxing at all. As for Ji-dong's various struggles in the ball of light, he simply turned a blind eye to them. Ji-dong's struggle lasted for a full quarter of an hour before it started to weaken. This was not a problem of insufficient mana, but in the process of continuous struggle, the strong feeling of suffocation made it impossible for him to continue. He opened his mouth subconsciously, wanting to breathe. His consciousness had already started to blur, and large mouthfuls of viscous liquid were directly lured into his stomach. He only felt that his body was very, very heavy, and everything around him started to get lost. It was as if he had already entered another world of darkness, and there was another voice calling out to him. At this moment, all the pain had already left him, and only that voice calling out to him was so beautiful. This feeling, Ji-dong had experienced it once before. That time, it was when he had drunk 1,000-year-old fine wine in his previous life. When he woke up, he had already arrived at the Five Elements continent. That beautiful voice was the call of death. How powerful was Ji-dong's soul? At this moment, he woke up with a start. No, I can't die just like this. I still have the flaming bar. I haven't completed my dying wish, no. The Earth Dragon ancestor had been paying attention to the changes in Ji-dong in the ball of light. What he wanted was the effect of destruction before reconstruction. Of course, he wouldn't let Ji-dong really die. He had been paying attention to the moment when Ji-dong was on the verge of death, when his soul was about to be separated from his body. That was the moment when life and death alternated. When that moment arrived, it would also be the crucial moment when he helped Ji-dong to come back to life. The longer it lasted, the closer Ji-dong was to death, and the greater the benefits he would receive. Seeing that Ji Dong was about to reach that state, the Earth Dragon ancestor couldn't help but feel nervous. Perhaps only the Earth Dragon ancestor would dare to help someone else absorb energy like this. After all, if something went wrong and he didn't save him in time, the other party would really die. Only the Earth Dragon ancestor was confident that nothing would go wrong. However, just as Ji Dong was about to reach that state, the Earth Dragon ancestor suddenly realized in shock that Ji Dong, who had stopped struggling in his blood, was moving again. An unparalleled power suddenly erupted from his body. A glaring red light rushed out of his body, followed by 9 other red lights at the same time. Strange yet tyrannical mana instantly erupted from his body, especially the piercing power of the red light. It actually pierced deeply into the yellow light emitted by the Earth Dragon ancestor. Dragon Valley. Chen Sichuan's entire body was trembling violently. She was originally sitting cross-legged in cultivation, but at this moment her body started trembling without any warning. Miao Miao and Ah Jin, who were sitting beside her, were instantly shocked. Chen Sichuan, who was still very normal just a moment ago, why was there no color on her pretty face at this moment? Could it be that she had gone berserk? The two women were shocked. Just as they were about to take action, Chen Sichuan let out a cry and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body went limp and she slowly fell to the ground. Sichuan, what's wrong? Miao Miao hugged Chen Sichuan, while Ah Jin pinched her wrist. Ah Jin was the one who believed that Chen Sichuan would go berserk in her cultivation. Only she knew what Chen Sichuan's original identity was. She was once a god, so how could she possibly go berserk in her cultivation? This was practically a fantasy story. However, things had happened just like that. When Ah Jin examined her, he was shocked to discover that Chen Sichuan's vital signs were rapidly fading away. The most terrifying thing was that her soul seemed as if it was about to dissipate. It had become chaotic and disorderly. How could this be? Ah Jin shouted, "Du Ming, Bauer, come here quickly." Everyone was cultivating in the Dragon Valley, so they were not far from each other. When they suddenly heard Ah Jin's loud call, Lan Bauer and Du Ming rushed over immediately. When they saw Chen Sichuan's state, they were also shocked. Ah Jin hurriedly said, "Quick, use your demonic powers to ignite the vitality in her body. I will protect her soul." For some reason, Sichuan suddenly feels like her cultivation is about to dissipate. Miao Miao, go and invite His Majesty the Dragon Emperor and the Dragon Kings over. All right. Miao Miao quickly flew away. At this moment, hearing Ah Jin's voice, the other heavenly stem saints also gathered. Seeing Chen Sichuan's pale face, they could not help but feel nervous. It was not just because Chen Sichuan was a part of the heavenly stem saint. At the same time, each of them had already regarded her as Ji Dong's woman. Ji Dong was not here. If something happened to Chen Sichuan, how could they explain it to him when he returned? Ah Jin's choice was undoubtedly very correct. Among the 5 elements, water and wood were also known as water. They were one of the 5 elements that were best at controlling swallowing. Although it was not as good as the wood element, it was not far off. Extreme 9th water and 10th water demonic powers were slowly injected into Chen Sichuan's body. Immediately, the demonic powers in her body began to circulate. A layer of aquamarine halo gradually emerged from her body and slowly gathered the vitality that was about to dissipate. This was the armor of eternity starting to take effect. The extreme shuang shui that entered from the outside just happened to ignite the armor of eternity. With the injection of the extreme shuang shui demonic powers, Chen Sichuan's life was temporarily saved. Ah Jin sat cross-legged behind Chen Sichuan with a solemn expression. She placed her head on her lap and kept changing the shape of her hand. Then, she pointed at Chen Sichuan's head. Her powerful soul power directly entered Chen Sichuan's soul and forcibly comforted her soul that was about to dissipate. She did not allow it to leave Chen Sichuan's body. Once her soul leaked out of her body and dissipated in the air, even a deity would not be able to save her. Although Ajin did not know what had happened in this situation, the first thing she had to do was to save Chen Sichuan's life. This was the Dragon Valley, and there were many powerful cultivators in the Dragon clan. There would always be a way. The reason why Chen Sichuan was in such a situation could be said to be entirely because of Ji Dong. When Ji Dong fell into a state of near-death, the first person to feel it was not the Earth Dragon ancestor, but Chen Sichuan. She was the flaming bar. How could she not feel anything if something happened to Ji Dong? Moreover, she had merged her soul with Ji Dong many times. The two of them had an extremely close relationship. When she suddenly realized that Ji Dong was about to fall into a state of near-death, without any warning, Chen Sichuan instantly panicked and released her own soul power without holding back. Chapter 495. When she realized that Ji Dong's life was in danger, Chen Sichuan wanted to communicate with him and help him fuse his soul to save his life. At the same time, she used her divine sense at all costs to forcefully awaken the 9 natal red lotus seeds in Ji Dong's body. Ji Dong had forgotten about the red lotus seeds in his suffocating state. When he fell into a state of near death, he could no longer contact her even if he wanted to. The Earth Dragon's ancestor's demonic power was so strong that the isolation he had on Ji Dong was not only in terms of demonic power, but also in terms of soul. Although Chen Sichuan had a divine sense that was of a higher level than the Earth Dragon's ancestor, in terms of actual power, it was not that strong. When her divine sense forcefully broke through the Earth Dragon's ancestor's restraint on Ji Dong and awakened the 9 lotus seeds to protect him, her divine sense shattered. Although the shattered divine sense automatically returned to her body, it could no longer be the dominant soul. Without the source of divine sense, her soul naturally could not be restrained. On top of that, the fusion of souls was completely blocked outside, and she was hit hard. That was why this situation happened. If it were not for Ah Jin and Miao Miao's timely response, she would have really died. In order to save Ji Dong, she would definitely pay any price. Ji Dong went from a state of near death to an extremely violent state. It was because of Chen Sichuan's help, as well as his own strong will to live. The 9 natal red lotus seeds protected him, and the powerful power rejuvenated his body that had been suffering from lack of oxygen. At the same time, he released the sword of the fire god. In an instant, he forcefully pushed himself to his peak state, and with a thrust of the sword, he was about to break through the restraint. This brat! The Earth Dragon's ancestor grunted speechlessly. He retracted his right claw, and the ball of light fell into his claw. Then, the elemental stripping domain was released, forcefully stripping away the fire element in the ball of light. Immediately, Ji Dong's demonic power, which had been extremely powerful before, suddenly leaked out. Although this thrust was still a divine weapon, it was much more powerful. With a poof, the sword of the fire god successfully pierced through the yellow barrier, but Ji Dong's body did not follow. The Earth Dragon's ancestor snorted. He raised his left claw and flicked it in the air. Immediately, dense rays of light crashed into the yellow ball of light, forcefully restraining Ji Dong again. The golden red blood in the ball of light also seemed to be boiling, constantly pouring into Ji Dong's body through his pores. The state of near death was over, and the absorption could not be any more perfect. The Earth Dragon's ancestor naturally did not need to let him experience the pain from before again. Ji Dong's body trembled. He felt as if all 6 million pores on his body had opened up under the effect of some strange and mysterious power, greedily absorbing the viscous liquid around him. His body was like a huge vortex, constantly devouring the strange power. The burning pain and the intense feeling of suffocation from before gradually disappeared. The feeling became more and more comfortable, and Ji Dong's tense nerves gradually relaxed. The extreme fatigue caused him to fall asleep just like that. The Earth Dragon's ancestor's eyes shone with a hint of admiration. As expected of the son that my daughter has taken a liking to. You do have some tricks up your sleeves. To think that you can still forcefully counterattack in a state of near death. Just this survival ability alone is something that is rarely seen in our dragon race. Not bad. This time, it wasn't a waste. As he said that, he waved his hand, and the yellow ball of light that was wrapped around Ji Dong floated down and landed on a rock by his feet. The faint yellow light kept flashing, and Ji Dong's figure was faintly discernible within it. Sob sob. At this moment, 2 fawning voices were heard. The Earth Dragon's ancestor turned his head and saw that both the sacred evolution fire dragon's dragon heads were raised, looking at him with great desire. He immediately said in annoyance, "I didn't expect this kid to be able to absorb all the essence in my blood. I thought he would be able to leave some for you." Sob sob. Moutai and Wuliangye still looked pitiful as they whimpered softly at the Earth Dragon's ancestor. The Earth Dragon's ancestor said helplessly, all right, you 2 lucked out." He flicked his left claw where his right claw was previously injured. Immediately, 2 drops of sticky golden-red blood flew out and landed in the mouths of Moutai and Wuliangye respectively. The sacred evolution fire dragon's body trembled violently, and then immediately curled up. It coiled on the spot and closed its eyes. It wasn't willing to waste any of its blood. Ji Dong didn't know what it was, but they were very clear about it. Their bodies were instinctively filled with desire for the blood of the Earth Dragon's ancestor. This was something that even the Dragon Emperor wouldn't be able to get his hands on. It was a treasure that was even more precious than a treasure. Moreover, they were from the dragon race to begin with. The Earth Dragon's ancestor let out a long breath and muttered to himself, "I'm so tired. This kid injured me, and yet I'm still helping him like this. Just thinking about it makes me feel unbalanced. If it wasn't for my daughter, I would definitely torture him for a few days like the Dragon Emperor to vent my anger." Ji Dong naturally didn't know what the Earth Dragon's ancestor was feeling at the moment. He was now completely in a deep sleep, and it was a deep sleep in a fetal state. His entire body was immersed in the dragon blood in the golden ball of light, and it was as though he had returned to his mother's womb. Every pore on his body was constantly absorbing the energy contained in the blood. After the previous round of absorption and swallowing, he had already absorbed 1/3 of the blood in the ball of light. The remaining 2/3 was still in the process of being absorbed. Layers of faint air currents were constantly released from Ji Dong's body. The color of the air currents was very faint, but it was still barely discernible. Although the Earth Dragon's ancestor was tired, he still focused on Ji Dong's body, silently sensing the changes in his body. And, among humans, this kind of physique is not bad. What kind of dragon's blood was soaked in before? It seems to be a water attribute dragon. However, there seems to be a strange power that harmonized the attributes of the dragon's blood. Not only did it not have a negative effect, it instead complemented each other. How strange, this brat's body also has the bloodline of the vermilion bird and the bloodline of the flying serpent. No wonder his resistance is so strong. This time, he has also absorbed my blood. In the future, even if someone wants to kill this brat, it will be very difficult. This is my work. The Earth Dragon's ancestors' words weren't an exaggeration. Regardless of whether it was the snow dragon Feng Shuang, the soaring serpent or the vermilion bird, although their blood was very precious and possessed an extremely large amount of magic, compared to the blood of the ancestor dragon, the Earth Dragon ancestor, they were worlds apart. The Earth Dragon ancestor was a powerful creature that had existed since the birth of this world. For millions of years, it had been absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Three Unity mountain range to nourish itself and expel the impurities in its body. It could be said that every drop of its blood was the most precious thing in the world. Not to mention absorbing it while bathing, just drinking a little was enough to change a normal person's physique and increase their lifespan by at least 3 times. And now that Ji Dong was completely immersed in the Earth Dragon ancestor's blood and absorbing it, The benefits it brought him were incomparable to the vermilion bird, the soaring serpent and the wind frost. Therefore, it wasn't wrong for the Earth Dragon ancestor to say that Ji-dong was its work. As the days passed, Ji-dong's body continuously secreted all the impurities, even the tiny impurities in his magic, turned into air currents and quietly dissipated. His body became purer and purer. As he soaked in the golden red blood, even his skin emitted the same luster. The strangest thing was that the holy king of Godfire armor that he had fused into his body using the divine fusion art would often appear and disappear. The originally dark red luster had completely turned into a golden red. It had fused with Ji-dong, so it naturally received the benefits that Ji-dong received. The Holy King of Godfire armor had already been a substandard god item for a very long time, and it was being nurtured in the chaotic fire in Ji-dong's body. At this moment, after being soaked in the Earth Dragon ancestor's blood, the Holy King of Godfire armor had already reached a special state of saturation. In other words, it was only a hair's breadth away from breaking through to the god level and becoming a true god item refined from Ji-dong's body. When did humans grow the fastest? Without a doubt, it was in the womb. From a simple cell to a baby that weighed several kilograms, how many times had the body grown? How many times had the body been perfected? At this moment, the Earth Dragon ancestor had created an environment similar to that of a mother's womb for Ji-dong. What satisfied the Earth Dragon ancestor the most was that under the suffocating pressure, Ji-dong's body's potential exploded and he actually entered the embryonic state. In this way, he could undoubtedly achieve twice the results with half the effort. This was also why the Earth Dragon ancestor said that Ji-dong would not leave anything for the sacred evolution fire dragon. With the guarantee of embryonic state, how could Ji-dong's body let go of any nourishment? In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. The Earth Dragon ancestor's blood in the yellow ball of light was getting lesser and lesser. The Earth Dragon ancestor did not add any more blood. There was a limit to the absorption of dragon blood. It was not that Ji-dong could not absorb any more. However, if he continued to absorb, then he would very likely turn from a human into a dragon, which would be detrimental to his future cultivation. From a cultivation point of view, no race's talent could compare to a human's. Finally, on the 18th day, the Earth Dragon ancestor's blood in the ball of light had completely disappeared and the sacred fire Saint King armor on Ji-dong's body was completely revealed. This armor had truly fused perfectly with his body. Moreover, under the effect of the Earth Dragon ancestor's blood, it had fused perfectly with Ji-dong's Phoenix Dance Dragon Snake transformation. From now on, as long as Ji-dong used the Phoenix Dance Dragon Snake transformation, the Sacred Fire Saint King armor would naturally appear. On the surface, the Sacred Fire Saint King armor had changed quite a bit compared to before. This change was mainly concentrated on the surface of the armor. Originally, every piece of the armor was very distinct. The pauldron was the pauldron, and the breastplate was the breastplate. But now, it felt like they were connected and fused together. Moreover, the golden red surface of the armor was no longer smooth, but had the shape of scales. It was like plate armor had become scale armor, and these scales looked like the scales on a miniature version of the Dragon Emperor. The golden red light shone brightly. The Earth Dragon ancestor was not of the fire attribute. Clearly, this was the result of the Sacred Fire Saint King armor and Ji-dong absorbing its blood and combining it with his own dual fire attribute. It was also a unique color that belonged to Ji-dong. Sitting there, the hideous mask on Ji-dong's face had also changed strangely. The hideous mask that looked like the radiance of the sun now had an image that looked like a brand. This image was in the shape of a dragon's head. A majestic dragon's head, just like the sacred Yen fire dragon. It was the image of the Yen Huang mystical dragon's head. The wings on his back had become more solid. Only the wings and the mask were not covered in scales. On the wings, golden red feathers drooped. The shape of these feathers was exactly the same as the vermilion bird's wings. Back then, this pair of wings had been bestowed by the vermilion bird. From the looks of it, Ji-dong's sacred fire Saint King armor seemed to be related to many powerful mythological beasts, but they were not complete replicas. It seemed a little odd, but when all of this was put together, it was extremely harmonious. From Ji-dong's body, there was even a layer of golden red light. The Earth Dragon ancestor had noticed the golden red light on Ji-dong's body for a few days. This layer of light had only appeared after the sacred fire Saint King armor had completely appeared on his body. It had been a full 3 days now. After careful examination, and feeling the changes on Ji-dong's body, the Earth Dragon ancestor could confirm that this light was not from the sacred fire Saint King armor, but from his body. But why would his body emit this golden red light? This puzzled the Earth Dragon ancestor. Could it be because of the sword of the fire god? But the sword of the fire god was red. If it was only because of the sword of the fire god, then the light from his body should also be red. Where did this gold come from? Suddenly, the Earth Dragon ancestor thought of the 9 golden red lotus seeds that Ji-dong emitted. Could this be the effect of the 9 lotus seeds? If I'm not wrong, it could very well be left behind by the Queen of the Flaming Bar. That's right, I was wondering why this kid could emit his own unique light. So that's why. That should be the result of his body fusing with the Queen of the Flaming Bar's unique light. The Earth Dragon ancestor's judgment was basically correct, but there was one thing he didn't know. Ji-dong did not absorb the 9 lotus seeds. This was because with his current strength, he was not able to absorb the 9 red lotus seed. Before the Flaming Bar died, it injected the 9 lotus seeds into Ji-dong's body and left an imprint on them. Only when Ji-dong had the strength to activate the imprint would the effects of the 9 lotus seeds be fully displayed. This was obviously not the time. Ji-dong had evolved. His entire body and the sacred fire Saint King armor had evolved, and he had his own unique light. Chapter 496. In a sense, the exclusive brilliance no longer belonged to the category of a magician. This color symbolized a trend, and was completely a characteristic of the Saint tier. When one cultivated to the Saint tier, no matter what kind of creature it was, they would have a color that belonged to them. This was the so-called exclusive brilliance. Even if the exclusive brilliance of 2 Saint tier powerhouses were both golden red, there would definitely be a certain difference between them, and they would never be exactly the same. The golden red became Ji-dong's exclusive brilliance. When the Earth Dragon ancestor saw the exclusive brilliance appear on his body, it was not very surprised. It had long expected this. The reason was very simple. Ji-dong's own soul power was already at the Saint tier. This time, it had used its own blood to forcefully transform Ji-dong's body, helping Ji-dong to completely merge the several powers in his body with his own. There would no longer be any power of the soaring serpent, the power of the vermilion bird, or the power of the dragon. From now on, there would only be Ji-dong's power. In a sense, the strength of Ji-dong's body had already been raised to the edge of the Saint tier, which was why the exclusive brilliance was produced. This exclusive brilliance symbolized that a magician already had the absolute potential to become a Saint tier. Usually, when it appeared, it was the moment when one was about to advance into the Saint tier. The timing of Ji-dong's appearance could be said to be extremely strange. Phew! Ji-dong exhaled a long breath, and the entire yellow ball of light was instantly filled with the golden red light. Even Ji-dong's body was covered, and could not be seen clearly. What's going on? What happened? When Ji-dong slowly opened his eyes and saw the golden red light around him, he could not help but exclaim. When he subconsciously restrained his own mana, the surrounding golden red light immediately merged into his body like rivers flowing into the sea. An unprecedented feeling of power instantly spread throughout his body. That comfort made every cell in his body moan in pleasure. Ji-dong could not help but suddenly stretch his body, and let out a long howl towards the sky. A crisp, shattering sound rang out around his body. The yellow ball of light that had enveloped him for 18 days quietly shattered. The surrounding scenery reappeared in front of Ji Dong's eyes, and everything returned to normal. Ji Dong saw the incomparably huge Earth Dragon Ancestor in front of him with a single glance. The Earth Dragon Ancestor was looking down at him. He subconsciously looked down at his body and was instantly stunned by the changes in the Divine Fire Saint King armor. The current Divine Flame Sage King armor was emitting a golden-red halo. Adding on the reflection of the scales, it was much more dazzling than before. Is this still my Sacred Fire King armor? A faint warmth was being nurtured on the surface of the armor. A huge amount of mana was constantly flowing through the armor into his body. Ji Dong could clearly feel that the power contained within the armor could break through that layer of restraint at any time and truly enter the level of a divine weapon. Everything that had happened before gradually came back to his mind. With how smart Ji Dong was, he had already formed a general idea of the entire process in his quick thinking. Looking at the scales on the Sacred Fire King armor that were the same as the Dragon Emperor's, his body suddenly trembled. He raised his head to look at the Earth Dragon Ancestor, and with a plop, he knelt in front of the Earth Dragon Ancestor and kowtowed, saying, "Thank you, Senior, for fulfilling my wish." The Earth Dragon Ancestor snorted and said, "I didn't fulfill your wish. I did this with conditions. Before, I promised you that I would only pass on the demon realm to you, but I never said that I would help you improve your body. Now, your body has already been modified by me, and you don't know how much stronger it is before. You must also pay the compensation I ask for." Ji Dong was originally filled with gratitude, but after hearing the Earth Dragon Ancestor say this, he felt a little helpless. This was simply forcing him to buy and sell, and it had already become a reality. He couldn't even return the goods if he wanted to. What compensation does Senior want? I don't seem to have anything that I can help you with. As long as I can do it, Ji Dong will never refuse. Of course, emotional matters are excluded. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon snorted and said, "Don't worry, I won't force you to marry my daughter. My daughter wouldn't be happy that way either. My request is simple. You've taken some benefits from me, and your strength has increased a step further. It can be said that from now on, no one below the Saint tier will be able to kill you. My request is simple. From now on, you have to take good care of my daughter on my behalf. I can't leave this place, and I've already given her everything that I can. I'm not a qualified father, and the reason why I'm helping you become stronger is so that you can protect her better." Hearing such a request from the Earth Dragon Ancestor, Ji Dong couldn't help but feel a little dazed. He had thought that the Earth Dragon Ancestor would ask for some harsh conditions. "Senior, even if you didn't ask, I would still do it. Ajin isn't just your daughter, she's also my partner. Since you've asked me, I promise you that I'll do my best to protect Ajin as long as I'm alive. If I really meet an enemy that I can't handle, then I'll definitely die in front of her." Ji Dong intentionally added the words, "as long as you're alive," but the Earth Dragon Ancestor wouldn't understand. Although Ji Dong knew that he had received a great favor from the Earth Dragon Ancestor this time, it wouldn't affect his determination to look for the flaming bar. The Earth Dragon Ancestor nodded and said, "Among you youngsters, you have the greatest potential. That's why I've chosen you. In the near future, you'll be facing the powerhouses of the Dark Five Elements mainland. While you've been cultivating, I've discussed with the Dragon Emperor. There's a secret about the Dragon Clan that I can tell you. Perhaps it'll be of help when you face the enemies of the Dark Five Elements mainland in the future." "Senior, please tell me," Ji Dong said respectfully. The Earth Dragon Ancestor said, "The heavens and earth give birth to all living things. In a sense, the Dark Five Elements mainland can be considered a reflection of the Light Five Elements mainland. Almost everything is almost the same as the Light Five Elements mainland, except that they lean more towards darkness. Whether it's mentality or mana, light and darkness are like day and night, dominating the entire world. In the Dark Five Elements mainland, the Dragon Clan also exists. You should know this as well. What I want to tell you is that every Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Clan doesn't have a single attribute. They all have a hidden attribute that belongs to them. Of course, after I was sealed here, my hidden attribute disappeared. Hidden attribute? Ji Dong looked at the Earth Dragon Ancestor in astonishment. The Earth Dragon Ancestor nodded and said, "In other words, in our Light Five Elements mainland, every race has such a hidden attribute. It's just that only a few can display this hidden attribute. This is the name of our continent. In other words, other than the Earth attribute, the Dragon Emperor also possesses the special light attribute. On the other hand, the Dragon Emperor of the Darkness Five Elements mainland possesses the darkness attribute. Light and darkness are two strange attributes. When you encounter the darkness attribute, you must be careful. This time, your body has been soaked in my blood, and the appearance of your unique brilliance has made me feel that the light attribute that you possess will awaken in the near future. This will be the most advantageous weapon for you to defeat the darkness attribute. Only by perfectly attaching this light attribute to your ultimate dual fire attribute will you have the ability to destroy the darkness attribute. Do you understand? Light and darkness are mutually restraining. This was the first time that Ji Dong had heard of the existence of the light and darkness attribute. He nodded and said, "Senior, I definitely won't let you down. As long as I'm alive, I'll always be a friend of the Dragon Clan." The Earth Dragon Ancestor waved his dragon claw at him and said, "You can leave now. I've done everything I can to help you. How far you can evolve in the future will depend on your own comprehension. Go and find your companions. I've already injected the elemental stripping demon domain into your body through your blood. You'll have to continuously comprehend it as you battle. You're not me after all, so when I imparted this demon domain to you, I had two choices. The first was to impart the demon domain to you that could also cover a large area like mine, but its power would only be 30% of mine. The second was to greatly reduce the area that your demon domain could cover, but its power would not change. After considering your situation, I've chosen the latter for you. So, when you're able to completely grasp the elemental stripping demon domain, the area that you can strip away will be 1,000 meters in diameter. My descendants, which are your dragon companions, have also benefited from me. They're in a deep sleep over there, absorbing the energy. When they wake up, I'll naturally have them look for you. When you're ready to head to the core of the world, come visit me again." The sacred evolution fire dragon was coiled not far away from Ji Dong. With just a glance, Ji Dong could feel that their bodies seemed to have grown a little. Obtaining benefits from the Earth Dragon Ancestor would definitely be of great help to them. This was also an opportunity for them. From the huge eyes of the Earth Dragon Ancestor, Ji Dong could clearly see a trace of exhaustion. He did not speak again, but knelt down again and kowtowed 3 times to the Earth Dragon Ancestor. Only then did he rise up, spread his wings, and flew towards the Dragon Valley. The Earth Dragon Ancestor watched as Ji Dong's figure disappeared. His huge dragon eyes slowly closed as he muttered to himself, "Daughter, whether or not you can capture that kid's heart is up to you. I can only let him be your protector. I can't do anything about matters of the heart. That kid is really not bad. If he had given up on his mutated vermilion bird and ran away, I wouldn't have given him such a chance no matter what, and I wouldn't have allowed you to be with him in the future." As he flew into the air, Ji Dong felt that the air currents in the air seemed to have become a lot more solid. In the past, he had carefully sensed it, but at this moment, this feeling was exceptionally clear. It was as if his body had become lighter, and it was no longer a simple flapping of his wings to push the air to fly. Instead, it was as if the air was summoned by his will, and under his control, it was as if he was pushing his body. With this feeling, Ji Dong tried to retract the wings on his back. as expected, under the urging of his will, without the assistance of the wings. His body was still floating in the air, and he could still fly forward. This was clearly a height that only a supreme being could reach. After carefully sensing his own mana, Ji-dong realized that his mana was still at the realm of level 82, and there was no further increase. What's going on? His mana had clearly not increased, and his cultivation had not increased to the level of a supreme being, but he had the ability to control the air with just his will. Ji-dong was puzzled. He clearly remembered that his grandmaster, Yin Zhaoyang, had once said that when a demon master broke through the 9 crowns and entered the realm of a supreme being, he would be able to communicate perfectly with the elements in the air that were of the same attribute as him, and use these elements to push his body through the air. However, his current situation was different. What he felt was not the fire element pushing his body, but all the air was pushing him, and the speed of his flight was also increasing according to his will. While thinking, Ji-dong's will moved, and he used all his strength to control the air to push his body. Suddenly, his whole body shot up into the air like an arrow, and the scenery around him flashed like lightning. The speed was so fast that it was somewhat close to the speed of the sacred evolution fire dragon. However, Ji-dong's mana did not decrease with the increase in speed. What was consumed was his strength of soul. Suddenly, Ji-dong understood something. He could fly freely in the air, looking like a supreme master, but in fact it was not the same. After absorbing the blood of the earth dragon, his body strength and sensitivity had reached another level. In this way, he could feel the subtle changes in the air, and then communicate with the surrounding air through his strength of soul to achieve the purpose of flying. It sounded simple, but in fact, to achieve this step, even if one cultivated to the level of 9 crowns, it might not be possible. Ji-dong's saint-level strength of soul was a huge treasure trove for him, but he only had this treasure trove, and could only use very little of it. This was because his other aspects were too far away from the saint level. This time, the strength of his body had increased, and was close to or even reached the level of the saint level. This gave him a whole new feeling. It seemed that his mana did not increase, but Ji-dong was very clear that his strength had made a qualitative leap. Even if he met a strong person like Lin Qing, who was Tai Chong, he had the confidence to fight. At this time, it was noon and the sky was especially sunny. When Ji-dong's body rushed into the sky, the sunlight shone on his body. His exclusive golden-red brilliance suddenly blossomed with thousands of rays of light. The resplendent brilliance made him look like a god descending from the heavens. The golden-red halo was like an auspicious cloud, slowly rising. Chapter 497. Ji-dong only managed to slow himself down after flying thousands of meters into the sky. Although his soul power was being consumed as he accelerated, it was being consumed at an extremely slow rate. His mid-stage Saint Soul power could at least allow him to fly at high speed for a day and a night without feeling exhausted. With a single thought, the evolved divine flame Saint King armor on Ji-dong's body transformed into a golden-red radiance and entered his body. Under the control of Ji-dong's will, the vermilion bird bracelet spat out a set of clothes that enveloped his body. From the looks of it, everything seemed to have returned to normal. Under Ji-dong's deliberate restraint, the golden-red radiance on his body slowly receded, revealing his healthy skin tone once again. However, something shocking still happened. His originally white hair actually turned jet black again, and the lines of his body seemed to have been resculpted. They were extremely perfect. Looking at his jet black hair, Ji-dong could not help but sigh. How great would it be if the flaming bar could recover like his hair? As he thought about this, Ji-dong descended from the sky and soared towards the Dragon Valley. Just as he was about to reach the sky above the Dragon Valley, a formless pressure welcomed him without any hesitation. This pressure was all too familiar to Ji-dong. Wasn't it coming from the Dragon Emperor? A smile appeared on his face. Ji-dong did not conceal his aura at all. His mid-stage Saint Soul power was fully released, forcefully withstanding the formless pressure, and even launched a counterattack. Eh! The Dragon Emperor's voice rang out. In the next moment, a resplendent light flashed by, and the Dragon Emperor, who had transformed into a human, appeared in front of Ji Dong. His skin seemed to be embedded with a layer of diamonds, and was exceptionally dazzling under the sunlight. When he saw Ji Dong, the Dragon Emperor could not help but be taken aback. He said, "It's actually you, kid. How is this possible? Why is your aura so similar to mine?" Ji Dong chuckled. "Senior Earth Dragon Ancestor allowed me to soak my body in dragon blood. Isn't it normal for me to have a bit more dragon aura?" Only now did the Dragon Emperor come to a sudden understanding. However, his expression quickly became solemn as he said, "Kid, to think that you're still able to laugh. Do you know that friend of yours, Chen Sichuan, is already at the critical moment of life and death?" "What did you say?" The smile on Ji Dong's face stiffened as shock filled his eyes. He had just woken up from his cultivation, so he had no idea what was going on in the outside world. After hearing the Dragon Emperor's words, he activated his soul power and subconsciously probed the bottom of the Dragon Valley in an attempt to contact Chen Sichuan. However, he very quickly discovered that he could not find Chen Sichuan's soul aura, and asked in shock, "Senior Dragon Emperor, what happened? What's going on?" The Dragon Emperor said in a deep voice, "I don't know what happened either. 18 days ago, Chen Sichuan suddenly vomited blood and fainted. Elder Ajin and your companions forcefully used their demonic energy to preserve her life and ensure that her soul would not dissipate. After I went over, I discovered that Chen Sichuan's soul seemed to have collapsed from the core. There's a strange power in her soul that even I can't do anything about. I could only temporarily seal her and imprison her body and soul in the tyrannical demon territory. Only then did I manage to temporarily preserve her life. I know that you can fuse your soul with her, and you're the only one who knows about her soul the best. Therefore, I tried to communicate with the ancestor to call you back, but the ancestor said that you're in closed-door cultivation and can't come back. You should hurry up and take a look." Ji Dong nodded hurriedly and instantly accelerated towards the bottom of the Dragon Valley. The Dragon Emperor only realized that Ji Dong already had the ability to fly when he saw that he did not release the Phoenix Dance Dragon Snake transformation. A trace of surprise flashed across the Dragon Emperor's eyes, and he was even a little envious and jealous. He thought to himself, "The ancestor actually values Ji Dong so much. Even I didn't get such benefits from the ancestor." Ji Dong arrived at the bottom of the Dragon Valley in less than a dozen breaths' time as he accelerated at full speed. The Dragon Emperor also arrived at the same time. During this period, none of the giant dragons tried to stop him. Ji Dong did not have the time to feel the changes at this moment. In reality, the aura that contained the royal bloodline of the Dragon Clan was something that no giant dragon dared to offend. After arriving at the bottom of the Dragon Valley, Ji Dong took a step forward and darted into the cave where his partners usually cultivated at lightning speed. His body trembled the moment he entered the cave, and he stopped in his tracks. The Heavenly Stem holy disciples who were cultivating stopped almost at the same time. Tianji heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Ji Dong, you're finally back. Today is your last chance." A gigantic diamond appeared in front of Ji Dong. Yes, it was a diamond. Chen Sichuan stood quietly in the 2-meter-tall diamond with a pale face, as if she had fainted. Ji Dong had only seen something similar when he saved Ajin back then. However, Ajin was not as weak as Chen Sichuan at that time. Separated by the gigantic diamond, Ji Dong could not sense Chen Sichuan's spiritual aura or life force at all. He only felt as if his heart had been pierced by countless sharp blades, and it was so painful that he could not breathe. Was it a relapse of an old injury? Ji Dong could still clearly remember the problem with the crack in Chen Sichuan's soul before he returned. However, he quickly rejected this thought, because after that, He carefully examined the crack in Chen Xishuan's soul. He was completely confident that the crack would not relapse for at least a year unless it was forcefully triggered. 18 days ago, wasn't that the time when he was immersed in the blood of the Earth Dragon ancestor? The feeling of suffocation had once brought him to the brink of death. Heartleaf's unwillingness and the sudden surge of energy gave him the ability to struggle again. Ji Dong's brain quickly recalled everything that had happened at that time. It was a strange power, an incomparably familiar and intimate power that had awakened his soul that was about to perish, forcefully pulling him back from that near-death state. After that, he had truly begun to absorb the essence of the ancestral dragon blood of the Earth Dragon. It's her, it must be her. She used the fusion of souls to awaken my soul. Ji Dong's heart began to tremble. Of course, he knew that he had been restrained by the energy of the Earth Dragon ancestor at that time. The powerful energy of the Earth Dragon ancestor could create an extremely strong barrier to souls. However, she still awakened him under those circumstances. What price did she have to pay? Ji Dong did not dare to imagine it. He really did not dare to imagine it. However, he completely understood that Chen Xishuan had suddenly vomited blood and fainted 18 days ago because she wanted to save him. She had sensed the danger he was facing and wanted to awaken him at all costs. That was why she had ended up like this. Ji Dong could not help but feel a sharp pain in his heart when he thought of this. He stood there in a daze. The Heavenly Stem holy disciples stood up one after another and looked at the dazed Ji Dong. They could not help but look at each other. Ji Dong, if you have a way to save Xishuan, then hurry up and start. I've observed the heavens. You're the only one in the world who can save Xishuan. Fortunately, you've returned in time. Xishuan will definitely be safe. The Heavenly Secret's voice rang out in Ji Dong's ears. Ji Dong woke up and realized that his vision was already blurry. Tears flowed uncontrollably down his face. Heavens! Why did you let me meet Xishuan and make her fall in love with me? Ji Dong really wanted to roar at the heavens. Everything that had happened since he had met Chen Xishuan flashed through his mind uncontrollably. From the day he had met her, she had always been quietly sacrificing herself for him. No matter how he had rejected her, she had never gotten angry. Instead, she had treated him even more gently and considerately. When he was in danger, she had always rushed forward without a care. Even if she had to give up her life, she would not hesitate to save him. Xishuan, you're really too silly. You clearly know that my heart cannot contain you. I love the flaming bar. I can't share my heart with you. I can't betray the flaming bar. However, I owe you so much that I'm afraid I won't be able to repay you in this lifetime. At this moment, a trace of strange enlightenment rose in Ji Dong's heart. He seemed to see Chen Xishuan's smile, and also Raging Flame's smile. It was the same gentleness, the same kindness. Their smiles overlapped in his soul. Then, he saw light. He saw light. What was the source of light? They had told him that the source of light was kindness, selflessness, and dedication. Step by step, Ji Dong walked towards the huge diamond. When the Heavenly Stem holy disciples looked at Ji Dong's face, they were shocked to realize that Ji Dong seemed to be different from before. His originally mediocre appearance seemed to have become extraordinarily handsome. Moreover, his body was gradually emitting a golden-red glow. There were no energy fluctuations in the glow, but it was this golden-red glow that made them not dare to look directly at it. They could not even sense any changes in Ji Dong's body anymore. Finally, Ji Dong walked in front of the huge diamond seal. His right hand silently pressed on the diamond, and a gentle golden-red glow immediately appeared around his body. In the blink of an eye, the huge diamond also emitted the same glow, illuminating Chen Xishuan, who was sealed inside. A slight tremor seemed to be emitted from Ji Dong's palm. In the next moment, the huge diamond lit up. It was originally covered by a layer of misty golden light, but now it actually emitted a resplendent golden-red brilliance. Even Chen Xishuan, who was within it, was completely dyed in this layer of brilliance. Even though her face was unhealthily pale, when her peerless beauty was dyed in this layer of golden red light, she could not help but release a touching, poignant beauty. The men weren't the only ones who were stunned. Even Meow Meow, Lon Bauer, and the rest were stunned. This poignant beauty infected everyone's hearts, and everyone had different feelings. In their eyes, Ji Dong, who was also emitting a golden red glow, was like a prince who was going to rescue a sleeping princess. He stood there quietly. The heavenly stem saints weren't the only ones who were dumbfounded. At the same time, the Dragon Emperor who came with Ji Dong was also dumbfounded. When the golden red light was emitted from Ji Dong's body, the Dragon Emperor had already realized many things. The huge diamond began to melt, melting in the golden red brilliance. That was the seal of the Dragon Emperor's tyrannical demonic domain, yet it quietly melted under the immersion of Ji Dong's unique brilliance. A majestic, and radiant aura was emitted from Ji Dong's body without reservation. The entire cave seemed to have been illuminated at this moment. Everything was affected by this radiance that made everyone feel extremely comfortable, regardless of their attribute. This is the power of light. The Dragon Emperor's eyes had unknowingly widened. If the Dragon Kings of the Dragon Tribe were here, they would definitely think that their eyes were playing tricks on them. That majestic and noble dragon aura, the radiant aura that only the Dragon Emperor possessed, was actually emitted from a human. It was also this aura that caused the Dragon Emperor's tyrannical demon territory to melt in the golden red glow without any resistance. The diamond seal disappeared quietly, finally revealing Qin Sixuan inside. However, the disappearance of the seal did not cause Qin Sixuan to collapse. The heavenly stem holy disciples could feel that there seemed to be an airflow in the air surrounding Qin Sixuan's body, supporting her so that she wouldn't collapse. The instant Qin Sixuan was freed from the diamond seal, Ji Dong's expression changed. Without the restraint of the seal, he could immediately sense Qin Sixuan's current state. Her soul wasn't weak, and her life force was no different from normal. However, the instant the diamond seal disappeared, Ji Dong immediately sensed Qin Sixuan's spiritual power and life force erupting from her body. Her body was like a balloon that had a hole pierced by the removal of the seal, causing all the essence in her body to leak out. Ji Dong didn't have time to think about why this was happening. The instant Qin Sixuan's soul appeared, Ji Dong's spiritual power surged up in an overwhelming manner and instantly enveloped her soul. At the same time, Ji Dong took a step forward and arrived in front of Qin Sixuan. The core of life hung around her neck, and Ji Dong's hands were already pressing on her chest and forehead without hesitation. A golden red halo continuously surged out of Ji Dong's body. That was the unique brilliance produced by the complete fusion of his mana and soul power. It completely enveloped his and Qin Sixuan's bodies, making them look like a giant egg. Chapter 498. The chaotic state of Qin Sixuan's soul was shocking. It was because she had lost control of her soul that her life force had begun to dissipate. Therefore, helping her recover her soul was the most important thing. After all, Ji Dong and Qin Sixuan had fused their souls many times. As soon as his soul connected, Qin Sixuan's soul naturally fused with it. It fused with Ji Dong's soul so that it wouldn't scatter. Her soul wasn't wary of Ji Dong's soul at all. Ji Dong used his soul power to form an energy shield to prevent Qin Sixuan's soul from escaping. At the same time, he used his hand on Qin Sixuan's chest to stimulate the core of life with his mana. Like his soul power, the core of life converged Qin Sixuan's vitality and released more vitality to nourish Qin Sixuan's body. This was to ensure that there was nothing wrong with her body. Only in this way could her body recover after her soul recovered. After completing all this, Ji Dong carefully sensed Qin Sixuan's soul. His saint-level soul power was extremely powerful. After absorbing all of Qin Sixuan's soul, he carefully sent it back into Qin Sixuan's mind. At the same time, he used his own soul to form a barrier in her sea of soul, restraining her soul in its original position. For Jidong, the biggest problem now was how to stabilize Qin Sixuan's soul. Only by stabilizing her soul in his sea of soul could he save her. However, it was easier said than done. Now, her soul gave Jidong the feeling that it was chaotic and disordered. It seemed like it had lost its core and couldn't restrain itself at all. If this continued, he could only protect her life like the Dragon Emperor did, but he couldn't really wake her up. No, I can't let this happen. She became like this because of me. No matter what, I have to save her. Jidong made up his mind. After thinking about it carefully for a while, he decided to look for an opportunity in Qin Sixuan's soul. The most mysterious thing about everyone was the soul. The soul itself was an illusory existence. No one knew how to effectively cultivate it, and no one could completely understand what was in it. Jidong couldn't do it, not even God. However, since his soul had reached the saint level and he had a series of fortuitous encounters, Jidong had made great progress in controlling his soul. Although he couldn't figure out the cause of Qin Sixuan's problem, he could use his soul power to conduct a comprehensive scan and exploration of her soul. After stabilizing Qin Sixuan's soul, Jidong began to scan her soul bit by bit in an attempt to find out what was wrong with her soul. This concerned Qin Sixuan's life and death. Therefore, Jidong was extremely meticulous in the investigation of his soul for fear of missing any clues. Time passed by bit by bit. The heavenly stem holy disciples couldn't be bothered with cultivating anymore. They were quietly watching the golden red light ball in front of them. Although they didn't know what had really happened, they knew that Qin Sixuan's current situation was closely related to Jidong through the prediction of the heavenly secrets. Jidong was looking for the core of Qin Sixuan's soul. If he could find the broken core of her soul and find a way to help her recondense her soul, everything would be smooth. The painstaking search was a long and boring process. However, Jidong was extremely patient. He didn't want to miss out on even the slightest detail. Finally, after an unknown period of time, Jidong sensed an extremely faint trace of red in Qin Sixuan's soul. This trace of red was very messy and its color was erratic. To Jidong's surprise, the trace of red actually approached him when he sensed his soul probing. Not only did it not disperse, but it also felt very close to Jidong's soul. This extremely close and familiar feeling made Jidong's saint-level soul tremble slightly. However, this feeling was very illusory. He wanted to capture this feeling carefully, but he couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he tried. Jidong would never have thought that this faint trace of soul fluctuation was the consciousness of the flaming bar. However, this consciousness was too weak after possessing Qin Sixuan, so Jidong couldn't tell it was the consciousness of the flaming bar. Furthermore, this sense of familiarity came from Qin Sixuan. It could be said that he had missed the best opportunity to reunite with the flaming bar. Jidong immediately used his own soul to surround the trace of red soul that had been attracted to him and controlled it. He knew that he had probably found the source of the problem. This should be the core of Qin Sixuan's soul. Since it was broken, there should be more than one trace. With this discovery, Jidong's confidence increased greatly. He continued to search, almost like a carpet search, not letting go of any possibility. Hard work paid off. After searching with all his might, he finally found traces of broken red consciousness from Qin Sixuan's broken soul and gathered them together. Jidong was surprised to find that although his soul had fused with Qin Sixuan's, he couldn't fuse with this red soul. He was only a saint-level soul, so how could he fuse with a god-level consciousness? He naturally couldn't figure this out. The feeling of fatigue kept appearing. This was clearly caused by overusing his soul. This was the first time that Jidong had encountered such a situation. It could be seen that he had expended a lot of energy searching for Qin Sixuan's soul this time. However, now that it was a critical moment, he didn't dare to relax at all. He concentrated on sensing the changes within and confirmed that there were no more red souls left outside. Only then did he use his own soul to gather these red souls together and observe the changes within. In Ji-dong's opinion, if he gathered these scattered soul cores together, these souls would be able to fuse together again and restore the core. Then, he would be able to gather the power of his soul again. However, he soon discovered that his thinking was completely wrong. Ji-dong's own soul also had a core. It was in existence like the pearl of chaos and was extremely solid, just like the silver core of the Milky Way. However, Chen Sichuan's soul core seemed so tiny to him. Not only was it chaotic, but it was also very weak. Apart from not being affected by the soul fusion, it was a world of difference compared to his own soul. Ji-dong didn't think too much about this situation. After all, he had a saint-level soul, so it was normal for Chen Sichuan's soul to be weaker than his. However, it was this weak soul core that stubbornly refused to fuse with each other no matter how much pressure he exerted on his soul. It was as if they had nothing to do with each other. Ji-dong now completely believed in Tianji's words. Apart from himself, there was indeed no one else who could help her. Relying on the soul fusion, he was able to find these soul cores and gather them together. All of this was based on the premise that Chen Sichuan's soul did not reject his soul at all. However, if he couldn't fuse with these soul cores and restore them to their core status, all his previous efforts would be in vain. What should I do? It wasn't easy to find these soul cores, but I can't make them fuse with each other. What should I do? Just as Ji-dong was at a loss of what to do, he suddenly felt as if a strange force had been triggered in his body. He was instantly taken aback. At this moment, all his energy was focused on protecting Chen Sichuan's body and soul. When his body suddenly encountered a problem, he was instantly shocked and hurriedly separated a trace of his soul to return to his body to investigate. After this investigation, Ji-dong immediately discovered that the problem was actually from the 9 natal red lotus seeds that Flaming Bar had left for him. For some unknown reason, the 9 lotus seeds were actually trembling slightly, and even emitting a somewhat excited aura. What's wrong with them? Could it be that they feel the exhaustion of my soul and want to help me? This was not the first time Ji-dong had used the natal red lotus seed. Even the unique brilliance that he was producing this time was related to them. However, as for the actual use of these 9 lotus seeds, Ji-dong was not clear. He only felt that every time he was in danger, they would appear in time. Now that he felt that they were stirring, he naturally subconsciously thought that it was because he had overexerted his soul power. At that moment, he did not think too much about it and immediately used the trace of his soul to approach the 9 lotus seeds. The moment Ji-dong's soul came into contact with the 9 lotus seeds, the 9 lotus seeds suddenly moved at the same time. Ji-dong's soul became their trajectory and bridge. Following this trace of soul connection, it actually penetrated into the world of Ji-dong's soul at lightning speed. This situation immediately gave Ji-dong a shock. In the next moment, he immediately felt his weak soul suddenly tremble. A warm and nourishing feeling had appeared in the depths of his soul and quietly spread to every corner of his soul. The previous feeling of exhaustion immediately disappeared. When his consciousness returned to the sea of his soul, he could not help but be stunned. At this moment, the 9 natal red lotus seeds were currently surrounding the broken core of Chen Sichuan's soul, releasing a faint golden red light. The red soul that had not reacted at all even when he tried his best to compress it had actually started to slowly fuse under the stimulation of the golden red light. This works too. Ji-dong immediately reacted after a short moment of sluggishness. As expected of a part of Flaming Bar's body, the effect of these 9 lotus seeds was actually so powerful. A warm and strange feeling spread in Ji-dong's heart. Flaming Bar, even though you are no longer here, you still saved me many times and even saved my friend. How could Ji-dong know that his 9 natal red lotus seeds had sensed Flaming Bar's divine sense, and thus floated up through his soul? They were originally from the same source of power, and these 9 lotus seeds released the power of Flaming Bar's origin, which helped her divine sense to fuse again. Now, Ji-dong had become a bystander. Seeing that Chen Xishuan's soul origin was gradually recovering, he was relieved. Smart people were not always so smart. Wasn't he a very obvious example at this moment? As the divine sense fused again, Flaming Bar's consciousness finally gradually awakened. After this divine sense fused again, she immediately felt the existence of the 9 lotus seeds around her. They were originally a part of her body, and that urgent affinity made Flaming Bar feel very comfortable. Where is this? This is Ji-dong's soul. After her mind recovered, her divine sense gradually recovered with the help of the natal red lotus seeds. Flaming Bar also gradually understood what was happening in front of her. When her divine sense was shattered in order to save Ji-dong, she thought that everything was over. Her last thought was that she could save Ji-dong, but she did not expect that she would wake up one day. This time, it was not the power of a god, but Ji-dong. With her divine sense, she only needed to think briefly to understand what had happened. With a slight movement of her divine sense, she had already reunited with her scattered souls that had been collected by Ji-dong, and quickly recovered. Ji-dong also felt the changes on Chen Xishuan's side. Once he realized that Chen Xishuan's soul was showing signs of recovery, Ji-dong could not help but be overjoyed. He even carefully urged his soul to guard outside, helping her to collect all the souls. As the source of souls, Flaming Bar's divine sense had recovered, it was naturally much easier to collect the souls around her. In just a short while, all the scattered souls of Chen Xishuan had already coiled around the divine sense that had gathered together, looking like a cluster of stars. This was the first time Ji-dong had observed a person's soul so closely. He could not help but gasp in amazement at everything he saw. This feeling was simply too wonderful, especially since this soul was completely defenseless against him. Chen Xishuan could also clearly feel the joy and happiness in Ji-dong's soul. She also heaved a huge sigh of relief. The fact that Ji-dong was able to save her meant that he was fine. Moreover, from the contact between their souls, she could feel that Ji-dong's soul was clearly more stable than before. Moreover, he seemed to be more relaxed when he was controlling it. It was obvious that his soul power had increased significantly again. After all, they had only been separated for a short period of time. Before Ji-dong's accident, Chen Xishuan's soul had not been able to sense his soul like this. It was obvious that the changes that had happened in the past 18 days had caused him to improve again. With the help of that trace of divine sense, Chen Xishuan's senses were extremely sharp. As her soul gradually recovered, she quickly discovered the obvious changes in Ji-dong's body. The powerful Emperor's dragon aura of the ancestor dragon could not be concealed from the Earth Dragon ancestor. Chapter 499. Chen Xishuan quickly discovered that Ji-dong had a superficial understanding of the power of light. This discovery surprised her even more than when she discovered that Ji-dong had the draconic aura of the Earth Dragon ancestor. From the changes in Ji-dong's body to everything she felt before her soul dissipated, Chen Xishuan had a complete understanding of what had happened to Ji-dong. She did not understand why the Earth Dragon ancestor was so fond of Ji-dong, even going so far as to let him soak in his own dragon blood. However, there was no doubt that this was an irreplaceable help to Ji-dong's growth. One should not assume that the Earth Dragon ancestor's body was huge, that he had a lot of blood. In fact, it was the exact opposite. Chen Xishuan knew that because the Earth Dragon ancestor had lived for so many years, most of the blood in his body had been replaced by energy. The remaining blood was probably not even 1/10 of the blood of an ordinary dragon. This blood was the true essence that the Earth Dragon ancestor had accumulated over thousands of years. Although Ji-dong's mana did not increase much because of this, his body had been forcefully raised to the same tier by the Earth Dragon ancestor's dragon blood. It was even more helpful than directly raising his mana to the level of 9 crowns. As Chen Xishuan's soul undulations became stronger and more autonomous, Ji Dong's anxious heart finally relaxed. He gradually released the shackles he had on Chen Xishuan's soul. His soul slowly withdrew, and he returned control of his body to her. Of course, he did not stop injecting life force into Chen Xishuan's body. Although he was returning control of his body, Ji Dong did not relax his attention on Chen Xishuan. His exclusive light still enveloped both of their bodies. If anything happened to Chen Xishuan, he would be able to react immediately. Finally, Ji Dong felt that Chen Xishuan's soul had regained control of her body. Everything was developing in a good direction. The relaxation in his heart made him feel even more tired. However, he could not care about himself at this time. He had to wait until Chen Xishuan had completely stabilized before he could relax and rest. Chen Xishuan's recovery speed was faster than Ji Dong had imagined. As her soul recovered, she successfully regained control of her body. Her life force no longer flowed out of her body, and she absorbed the enormous life force from the core of life. Her vital signs had returned to normal. Ji Dong, thank you. I'm fine now. Hurry up and recover. Chen Xishuan's emotions were transmitted to Ji Dong's soul. Now, he could finally relax. The golden red light in the eyes of the heavenly stem holy apostles gradually receded, revealing Ji Dong and Chen Xishuan. Ji Dong's complexion was frighteningly pale, just like Chen Xishuan's previously sealed face. His body swayed slightly, and he sat cross-legged on the ground. Chen Xishuan's perfect complexion gradually became rosy, and she no longer lost her life aura and soul. Seeing this, the heavenly stem holy apostles finally relaxed. They understood that Ji Dong had succeeded. Chen Xishuan moved. Her eyes were still closed, but she slowly sat down opposite Ji Dong. She also closed her eyes and entered a state of cultivation. Why has teacher Ji Dong's hair turned black? Only then did everyone notice the change in the color of Ji Dong's hair. Du Xian couldn't help but exclaim. Lan Bauer said softly, "It's not as simple as his hair turning black. Other parts of him seem to have changed as well. I don't know what exactly it is, but he's different from before." At that moment, her feelings were very complicated. The moment Ji Dong walked towards Chen Xishuan, she once again felt the urgency from Ji Dong. It was not an ordinary urgency, but a feeling of extreme concern. The last time she felt this from Ji Dong, he was with the flaming bar. In order to save Chen Xishuan, Ji Dong had made himself so weak. Looking at Chen Xishuan's perfect face, the last shred of hope in her heart gradually faded. She knew that she would never be able to enter Ji Dong's heart. She just didn't know how much Chen Xishuan had entered his heart. Ajin stared straight at Ji Dong. Even though she had regained her memory, she still gave others a cold feeling on the surface, perhaps because she was used to the coldness in the past. Among the crowd, she felt it the most, apart from the Dragon Emperor. From Ji Dong's body, she could clearly sense a bloodline aura that was extremely similar to hers. That was her father's aura. She could vaguely understand the changes in Ji Dong's body. The Dragon Emperor said softly, "Don't disturb them. Let them cultivate for a while and they should be able to recover. Elder Ajin, when Ji Dong wakes up, please tell him that I represent the Dragon Tribe and would like to invite him to become the Dragon Tribe's foreign elder." Ajin was not surprised by the Dragon Emperor's decision. She nodded at the Dragon King and said, "He will agree." The Dragon Emperor smiled and said, "To be honest, I am a little jealous of this boy. But since he is back, it is probably time for you to leave." Ajin nodded and said, "If Xishuan is fine, I think it is time for us to leave." While they were talking, Ji Dong and Chen Xishuan, who were cultivating, were also talking to each other. "Xishuan, are you okay?" Ji Dong relaxed his mind and allowed his soul force to recover on its own. At the same time, he fused with Chen Xishuan's soul. The fusion gave him a strong sense of satisfaction. It was as if he had found something extremely precious that he had lost. I'm fine. Thank you, Ji-dong, for helping me recover. I thought I would never see you again. Chen Sichuan's soul was also extremely happy. It was a perfect result to be able to recover her soul, and it was Ji-dong who helped her recover. Moreover, she could now deeply feel Ji-dong's concern for her. This feeling was very precious to her. No, Sichuan, don't say that. No, Sixian, don't say that. I should be the one thanking you. You became like this because you saved me, but I only found out after such a long time. If Senior Dragon Emperor hadn't sealed your body in time, I'm afraid that there would have been no way to save you. You're too foolish. Why would the Earth Dragon Ancestor do anything to me? You. Ji-dong couldn't continue after saying that. He realized that his heart was twitching slightly. This feeling caused him to hurriedly withdraw his thoughts. He was secretly shocked. Could it be that I really have feelings for her? No, it can't be. I only love the flaming bar, and I only love the flaming bar. Chen Sichuan fell silent for a moment before she said faintly, Perhaps I was confused because I was too concerned. I sensed your aura on the verge of death. How could I think calmly at that time? So I rushed over immediately. I'm very silly, but I'll only be silly because of you. Ji-dong almost could not suppress his heart when he heard her words. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, Sichuan, your soul has been reunited. Do you still have any problems? Qin Sichuan said, The soul is the most mysterious part of a person. How would I know if there's any problem with my soul? However, my soul has been shattered. I'm afraid it'll take a long time for it to completely reunite. As long as I don't use any powerful spiritual attacks in the future, there shouldn't be any big problems, right? Ji-dong said, Don't worry. With me by your side, if there's any problem with your soul, I'll be able to react immediately. With today's experience, it'll be much easier to deal with similar problems in the future. Chen Sichuan said softly, Will you protect me by my side forever? Ji-dong fell silent. He could not answer such a simple question from Chen Sichuan. In this silence, the two of them gradually immersed themselves in their respective states of cultivation. The golden-red geocentric red lotus seeds flew out from between Chen Sichuan's eyebrows one by one and returned to Ji-dong's body. Naturally, Ji-dong did not know that the 9 lotus seeds had returned under Chen Sichuan's forceful coercion. Otherwise, after sensing the flaming bar's divine sense, the 9 lotus seeds would naturally merge with Chen Sichuan. Even if their attributes were incompatible, they would still be of great help to Chen Sichuan. After all, no one was more familiar with the 9 lotus seeds than she was. About 8 hours later, Ji-dong was the first to awaken from his state of cultivation. With the strength of his soul, a quiet rest would allow him to recover in a short period of time. His soul power had already formed its own system. Although he did not know how to cultivate it specifically, he just needed to calm his heart and qi to circulate the system of his soul. After opening his eyes, Ji-dong sensed the undulations of Chen Sichuan's soul. She was very calm and was still in a state of cultivation. Although Ji-dong had seen that perfect face countless times, he could not help but feel his heart skip a beat when he looked at it from such a close distance. Chen Sichuan was currently in a good state. At least on the surface, there seemed to be no problems with her body. This made Ji-dong heave a huge sigh of relief. He murmured in his heart, I'm sorry, Sichuan. I can't protect you forever, but I can promise you that I will do my best to protect you before I go looking for the flaming bar. I'm afraid I'll never be able to repay you for everything you've done for me. I can only try my best to repay you. Do you know that I really don't want to go looking for the flaming bar because of what I owe you? I'll definitely do my best to repay you. With a thought, the air had already lifted his body up. At this moment, the heavenly stem saints had gathered around the two of them and were also in a state of cultivation. As Jijua stood up, Fury, who was sitting close to him, slowly opened his eyes. Hyoheim looked over, then pointed outside. Ji-dong nodded knowingly. The two of them silently rose into the air and landed lightly in the distance. With a few steps, they were already outside the cave. Phew! Ji Dong spread his arms and took a deep breath of the fresh air in the Dragon Valley. He felt that his limbs and bones were filled with explosive power. As he stretched his body, his skin naturally glowed with a faint golden-red luster. Fury's sigh resounded right beside Ji Dong's ears. "Little junior brother, do you know? After you came back this time, I feel that there's already a gap between us." Ji Dong turned around and looked at Fury in surprise. "Senior brother, why do you say that?" Fury chuckled and said, "It's just a feeling. Maybe it's because we're too familiar with each other. I heard from Si Xian that you've already broken through to the 8th crown. This time, the light that you're emitting is already beyond my understanding. Even Ah Jin can't explain it clearly. Not only you, Ah Jin's cultivation has also surpassed mine." "Oh!" Ji Dong looked at Fury in surprise. "I can imagine that Ah Jin's cultivation has improved, but it might not surpass yours. Perhaps it's because her dragon bloodline has awakened that you have this feeling. But, senior brother, don't forget that Ah Jin doesn't have a mount. She's merged with her dragon, that's why you have this feeling." Fury chuckled and said, "You're wrong. It's not that Ah Jin doesn't have a mount. She just doesn't want to be bound by it. Do you know what level Ah Jin's cultivation has reached? Her mana is already at level 89. Without a doubt, she'll be the first among us to break through to the 9th crown. Speaking of which, I'm a little jealous." Although he said he was jealous, his expression was obviously very excited. Ji Dong smiled and said, "Senior brother, why do you look so happy? Do you really want to be surpassed by us?" Fury smiled and said, "Of course I do. If you can surpass me, it will prove that the heavenly stem saints have become stronger. In the near future, when we face Li Yonghao and the others, we will have a higher chance of winning. How can I not be happy? Moreover, I've always been the strongest in my generation. Junior brother, it's lonely at the top. I can't see my own goal. I know that as long as I continue to cultivate, I will definitely be able to break through to the 9th crown. That's why I don't have more motivation to cultivate. However, ever since I had you, I saw your mana level approaching mine step by step. Only then did I feel a sense of crisis. If it wasn't for your existence, I wouldn't have been able to break through so quickly. My mana is now at level 85, and I'm only in my early 30s. In the history of the magic world, this is definitely an extraordinary achievement. Of course, I believe that you will definitely surpass me." Ji Dong laughed and said, "Senior brother, I didn't expect you to have such a good attitude. I was afraid that you would be mentally unbalanced." Fury said, "There's nothing to be mentally unbalanced about. A person's strength is determined by their own effort and luck. Luck itself is also a part of strength." Chapter 500. Fury Hyoheim asked, "Little junior brother, what's your next plan? We've already completed 2 of the 3 tests proposed by the foolish rich Chamber of Commerce. We've already obtained the Dragon King's scales. Although they shed their scales during their evolution, it's enough to hand them over to the foolish rich Chamber of Commerce. What's more, the Dragon Emperor also expressed his hope that you can become the foreign elder of the Dragon Clan when you were cultivating." Ji Dong said seriously, "I must become the foreign elder. This time, it's all thanks to the Earth Dragon ancestor that I can improve so much. If the Dragon Clan encounters any danger in the future, I will not shirk my duty. As for what to do next, I already have a plan. It's time to go to the core of the earth." Fury smiled and said, "After cultivating here for so long, everyone can't stand the loneliness. During this period of time, everyone has improved a lot. They can't wait to test their progress in actual combat. It's time to leave the Dragon Valley." Fury was right. During this period of time, it was not only Ji Dong and Ah Jin who had improved. In terms of the degree of improvement, some even surpassed Ji Dong, Ah Jin, and the others. After all, Jidong, Ajin, and Fury were the most powerful among the heavenly stem saints. Their base number was already so high, it was much more difficult for them to continue to improve. For people like Du Ming, Du Exiner Lonbauer and the others, their cultivation was not high, and they didn't have mounts before. But this time, not only did their magic power level increase a lot, they also had their own mounts, which increased their strength exponentially. Although it had only been less than a year, the overall strength of the heavenly stem saints had made a huge leap. Jidong was confident that no single devil master in the Radiant Five Elements continent could defeat them when they joined forces. Only saint-level experts like the Earth Dragon Ancestor and the Dragon Emperor could compete with them when they joined forces. Fury was right, the results of cultivation needed to be tested by actual combat. Senior brother, I've heard from the Earth Dragon Ancestor that the core world is an extremely dangerous place. Even with his cultivation, he described it in such a way. It's obvious that the core world isn't simple. I've only been to the 18th floor, where Raging Flames lives, and I don't know much about other places. We must be careful when we go there this time. However, I've heard Raging Flames say that the deeper we go, the more dangerous it gets, and the stronger the creatures that live there will be. Therefore, I've decided that after we enter the core world, we won't be in a hurry to go deeper. We'll gradually adapt to each floor, and we'll also start to hone everyone's ability to cooperate. Completing the Foolish Rich Merchant Guild's test is secondary. The most important thing is to improve everyone's coordination, and at the same time, we'll be able to better use the 5 elements mutual generation and circulation formation in actual combat. Fury nodded and smiled. That's what I mean too. To put it bluntly, there aren't many places on the mainland that are suitable for us to train. The core world is a very good choice. I'm afraid that other than there really isn't any other place that is suitable for us to train. You might not know this, but recently, the Dragon Kings in the Dragon Valley have banned the Dragon Tribe from fighting with us. Why? Jidong was puzzled. Fury laughed. Of course they're afraid that we'll get used to using them for training and keep looking for them. Even without the Dragon King's orders, ever since the Maotai and Wulyangya liquor started wreaking havoc, the high-level dragon tribes have been avoiding us. Moreover, since everyone has such a good relationship with each other, it's impossible for them to go all out in actual combat. They'll hold back, so the battle will be meaningless and of limited use. Jidong came to a realization. I see. We've been bothering them for too long. However, other than the core world, I have a better place to train. However, we'll have to wait until we come out of the core world. There's a better place. Fury scratched his head. Why can't I think of it? Where is it? Jidong chuckled. It's a secret for now. Anyway, I'll make sure you're satisfied when the time comes. You brat. You're still keeping secrets from me. Alright, I won't ask any more. Since you've already planned it out, let's get ready when Si Xian wakes up. Oh right, how's Si Xian doing? Can she fight with us? Jidong nodded. There shouldn't be a problem. Her soul has been reintegrated. Although it's still a little unstable, as long as she doesn't actively attack with her soul, she won't be affected. I can fuse my soul with her and protect her soul. Fury nodded. The smile on his face disappeared. He patted Jidong's shoulder and said, Little junior brother, Si Xian is a good girl. Flaming Bar has been dead for more than 2 years. We can't live in sadness and memories forever. We have to look forward. Do you understand? Jidong smiled faintly. Senior brother, can you forget senior sister Yi Xian? Fury's face darkened. Jidong realized that he had said something wrong. He quickly apologized. I'm sorry, senior brother. I didn't mean to bring up your sad past. Fury waved his hand. It's okay. I know you mean no harm. To be honest, I really can't forget Yi Xian. I can't forget her for the rest of my life. However, I believe that if she's watching from the heavens, she won't be willing to see me wallow in sadness. I will always keep her in my heart. In my heart, There will always be a high ground that belongs to her. This position will never be replaced by anyone. However, I can't wallow in this sadness anymore. There are still many things I need to do. Ji Dong was moved. So, senior brother, you've accepted Miao Miao's feelings? Fury shook his head. No. I'm just saying that I won't be sad about Yi Xian's death anymore. However, it's not easy for me to accept other women. Ji Dong smiled. Then why are you still trying to persuade me? Fury sighed. Junior brother, you're different from me. You're much more stubborn than I am. Don't think that I can't tell what you're thinking just because you have a smile on your face every day. Your dedication to the flaming bar far exceeds my love for Yi Xian. The pain in your heart is also greater than mine. From the depths of your eyes, I can often see the loneliness and emptiness that you're trying to hide. It's only because you have too many burdens on your shoulders that you're trying to adjust yourself. However, your heart isn't happy, or should I say, it's always filled with sadness. Ji Dong stared at Fury blankly. He didn't expect his senior brother, who rarely spoke, to know so much about him. Junior brother, I really hope that you can relax. Other than the flaming bar, you still have me as your senior brother, master, mistress, and grandmaster who care about you. You still have friends like us, the Heavenly Stem holy disciples, don't you? You have to pull yourself together for us. If the flaming bar saw you like this, I don't know how heartbroken they would be. Ji Dong couldn't maintain the smile on his face anymore. He became silent. Senior brother, you're right. I'm different from you. You and senior sister Yi Xian are in a romantic relationship. She's your lover. However, the flaming bar isn't just my lover to me. It's not an exaggeration to say that the flaming bar gave me all the achievements I have today and everything I have now. To me, the flaming bar is my lover, my teacher, and even my mother. Do you know that? If it wasn't for her, I would have been eliminated in the first year of the Fire Academy of the Southern Fire Empire. I was born with a balanced body of yin and yang, so it was impossible for me to cultivate. One day, I accidentally opened the indefinite teleportation scroll on Dean Yang Bingtian's desk. It sent me to the 18th level of the core world and let me meet her. From that day on, my fate changed. I was never a genius. Everything I have was given to me by the flaming bar. Without her help, no matter how hard I worked, I would only be a useless person. Not to mention that I met you, teacher, master's wife, and master's ancestor. It was the flaming bar that gave me the brilliance of my life. It was the flaming bar that gave me everything I have now. It can be said that the most important thing in my life isn't myself, but the flaming bar. I love her. She's too important in my heart. She even died because of me. How can I let go of this feeling? The time I spent with her was the happiest time of my life. She's gone, and my heart has also been taken away by her. I'm just a heartless person now. What's left in this world is only a shell. You're right, I still have too many responsibilities on my shoulders, and the wish of the flaming bar. If it wasn't for this, I would have followed her when the flaming bar left. I wouldn't have waited until now. At this point, Ji Dong's face was already covered with tears, and his body was trembling non-stop. Ever since the flaming bar died, this was the first time he had poured out his heart to someone else. His longing and feelings for the flaming bar erupted like a volcano. With a flick of his wrist, a bottle of strong alcohol appeared in his grasp. He flicked the cap off the bottle with his thumb and poured the alcohol down his throat in big mouthfuls, using the rising heat of the alcohol to soothe his aching heart. Fu Pu was silent. He looked at Ji Dong and could not say a word. The Heavenly Stem holy disciples had appeared outside the cave and were looking at Ji Dong silently. Chen Xishuan, who had just woken up from her cultivation, was also among them. Miao Miao stood next to Chen Xishuan and hugged her tightly. She whispered, "Xishuan, you have to pull yourself together. Your injuries have just healed. From the day you fell in love with him, you should have known what kind of person he was. Chen Sichuan stood there and looked at Ji Dong. Her eyes were already blurred and her body, which was being held by Miao Miao, was terrifyingly stiff. Miao Miao was so scared that she thought Ji Dong had angered her to the point where her old injuries were about to relapse. Fury tightened his grip on Ji Dong's shoulder and signaled him with his eyes. Ji Dong could naturally sense the arrival of his companions behind him. He silently raised his hand and wiped his face to get rid of the tear stains. With his cultivation, as long as he controlled the air to remove the tear stains from his face, there would not be a single trace left. Of course, Miao Miao was also worried about him. Previously, when he was triggered by fury and said those words, when he felt that Chen Sichuan was behind him, he could no longer stop his emotions. At this moment, his heart was filled with regret. He did not want to hurt Chen Sichuan, especially when he owed Chen Sichuan so much. Turning around, Ji Dong's gaze fell directly on Chen Sichuan's lifeless face. When he saw two streams of tears rolling down her beautiful face, he could not help but feel his heart tighten. He took 2 steps forward and was already in front of her. Miao Miao, who was holding Chen Sichuan, glared at him and said, "Ji Dong, I don't want to criticize you, but we all know that you love the flaming bar deeply. But can you stop talking about it? Xi Xian's body has just recovered. Are you deliberately trying to provoke her? You've gone too far. Even if you don't want to accept her feelings, you can't hurt her like this. We all know how much Xi Xian has sacrificed for you." "I'm sorry, Xi Xian." Ji Dong slowly lowered his head and looked at Chen Sichuan with concern. He sensed the changes in her emotions so that he could immediately rescue her if something was wrong with her soul. Emotions gradually appeared on Chen Sichuan's lifeless face. She gently broke free from Miao Miao's embrace and took a step forward, getting closer to Ji Dong. She was only a foot away from him. The heavenly stem holy disciples could not help but feel nervous. They did not know what Chen Sichuan was going to do. In Miao Miao's opinion, if it were her, she would definitely slap Chen Sichuan and run away. Chen Sichuan was not Miao Miao. She would not do that. She reached out with both hands and slowly lifted up Ji Dong's right hand. One soft hand held Ji Dong's palm, while the other pinched his index finger. She gently wiped away the tears on her face. When Ji Dong felt what she was going to do, he had already taken the initiative to do it. There was no need for her to continue controlling him. He did not understand what Chen Sichuan was thinking at the moment. From her soul, he could not feel any anger or annoyance. Instead, there was a violent fluctuation of emotions that he could not describe. Ji Dong wiped away the tears on Chen Sichuan's face. Chen Sichuan raised her head and looked into his eyes with her teary eyes. She said softly, "Ji Dong, squat down." Beside him, Miao Miao secretly cursed in her heart. Xi Xian must have thought that he was too tall. It would be more convenient for him to squat down and smoke. This is a good method. If Fury offends me next time, I will also make him squat down. That guy is taller. Squatting down and smoking is just the right height. Ji Dong did not disobey Chen Sichuan. He slowly squatted down in front of her. Until now, no one could tell what Chen Sichuan was thinking or what she was going to do. What was she going to do? The heavenly stem holy disciples were all nervous, but they could not stop her. Chapter 501. Ji Dong's words of longing for the flaming bar had spoken his mind, but they were heard by Chen Sichuan as well. Everyone thought that Chen Sichuan would go berserk in the next moment, including Ji Dong. However, Chen Sichuan used Ji Dong's hand to wipe away the tears on her face and said 2 simple words to him: "Squat down." Ji Dong did not go against Chen Sichuan's wishes and slowly squatted down in front of her. As Ji Dong squatted down, Chen Sichuan used her left hand to hold on to Ji Dong's right hand, which had wiped away her tears, and her right hand to hold on to Ji Dong's left hand. When he squatted down in front of her, Chen Sichuan pulled Ji Dong's arms around her waist and naturally moved closer to him. She hugged his head gently and let his face stick to her smooth abdomen. All the heavenly stem holy disciples who were waiting to watch the intense scene couldn't help but be dumbfounded at this moment, especially Yao Qianshu, Fury, Du Ming, and the other men. Their jaws almost fell off. How could this work? Expressing his deep love for another woman could also get a hug from his current girlfriend. How did this trick work? In the eyes of everyone, Chen Xishuan was already Ji Dong's actual girlfriend. Even Ji Dong was stunned and allowed Chen Xishuan to hug him like this. Her abdomen was smooth and soft, and the warm feeling and faint fragrance from it made Ji Dong a little dazed. However, Chen Xishuan's voice rang in his ears. Ji Dong, I know that you love the flaming bar deeply. I've also accompanied you to pay respects to her twice. I completely understand the pain in your heart. Cry if you want to. Don't worry about me. Why would I blame you for such a thing? I know that you belong to the flaming bar, and everything about you belongs to the flaming bar. I've never thought of snatching you away from her, and I can't. I love you very much, just like how you love her. If your feelings for her change because of me, perhaps I won't love you as much as I do now. I don't have any extravagant hopes, and you don't have to feel any psychological pressure because of me. She's gone, and I just want to take care of you on her behalf. If it's possible, please treat me as her replacement, okay? A light breeze blew, and the lush plants in the surroundings rustled. The faint fragrance of plants surrounded the heavenly stem holy disciples. At this moment, there was only the rustling of the plants at the entrance of the cave. Apart from Ji Dong, who was being hugged by Chen Xishuan, the way the other heavenly stem holy disciples, including Yun Tianji, looked at Chen Xishuan changed. A girl loved a man so much that she was willing to be a replacement. Was there any need to say anything else? Even Lan Bauer, who had always been reluctant to get close to Chen Xishuan because of Ji Dong, now looked at her with respect. She knew that what Chen Xishuan had done was something that she could never do. Chen Xishuan had really given up everything for Ji Dong, just like how Ji Dong loved the flaming bar at all costs. Lan Bauer now understood why she did not get any response when Hyoheim expressed her love for the flaming bar. Although Chen Xishuan could not affect Ji Dong's love for the flaming bar, she was much closer to him than Lan Bauer. It was because Lan Bauer was not as desperate as Chen Xishuan. If there was anyone present who understood why Chen Xishuan would do this, it would probably be Jin. Only she knew Chen Xishuan's true identity, and she had always kept this secret, even if she didn't tell her father. These days, she had recovered her memories, and when her father awakened the Dragon Clan's bloodline, she had also gradually merged everything she had experienced after her resurrection with her previous memories. She had long since confirmed her feelings for Ji Dong. Just as Chen Xishuan had said, it was precisely because of Ji Dong's deep love for raging flames that she fell in love with him. In Jin's heart, Ji Dong's weight was even heavier than her father's. No matter what, her father was a man of universal love. He had so many women, but Ji Dong had only had one raging flame from beginning to end. She had long since set the right position in her heart. Even if it wasn't for the fact that raging flame had saved her life, she would never do anything to destroy them. They had already suffered too much. Jin only hoped that they would be able to get married soon, and she would only secretly bless them. Turning around, Ajin was the first to walk towards the cave worm. Fury had also woken up. He waved at the crowd and led the heavenly stem holy disciples back into the cave, leaving Ji Dong and Chen Xishuan alone here for a while longer. Releasing his hand from Chen Xishuan's waist, Ji Dong grabbed her hands and slowly stood up. He stared at Chen Xishuan's teary eyes and said, "Xishuan, I didn't expect you to know me so well. But the more you know, the more I don't want you to suffer. Ever since I met you, I remember everything you've done for me deeply. But no matter what, I still can't accept your feelings. How can you become a substitute? That's too unfair to you. I'm willing to be a substitute." Chen Xishuan threw herself into Ji Dong's arms without a care for anything else. Just now, when she saw Ji Dong's painful expression in front of Fury and listened to his affectionate confession, she only felt that her heart was about to break. She even regretted that she didn't have a better relationship with him when they were still in the flaming bar. But it was too late to say anything now. She was already Chen Sichuan, not the flaming bar. Looking at Ji Dong's painful expression, her heart really hurt. Now, she didn't want to force him at all. She just hoped that he could be a little happier. Even if she couldn't be with him in the end, as long as he could be happy, she would be satisfied. Being hugged by Chen Sichuan, Ji Dong didn't struggle. He really couldn't bear to do it. Even if he had a heart of stone, he would still be melted by Chen Sichuan's feelings. However, just like what he said to Fury previously, he would never betray the flaming bar. No matter how good Chen Sichuan was, she was still Chen Sichuan, not his flaming bar. Just like that, Ji Dong let Chen Sichuan hug him. Tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes again as he missed his flaming bar. 3 days later, the heavenly stem holy disciples finished resting. Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan seemed to have calmed down. Finally, it was time for them to leave the Dragon Valley. There was another important reason why they chose to leave on this day, and that was because Maotai and Wuliangye had woken up from their slumber and returned to Ji Dong's side. With the help of the blood of the Earth Dragon's ancestor, the sacred evolution Fire Dragon's body length had already exceeded 20 meters. Putting aside the improvement in their mana, the terrifying increase in their physical strength had already greatly increased their combat power. Ji Dong went to see the Dragon Emperor and the Earth Dragon's ancestor. Jin even stayed with the Earth Dragon's ancestor for the entire night. It was unclear what the father and daughter talked about, but when Jin returned the next day, his eyes were a little red and swollen. Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan stood on the dragon heads of Maotai and Wuliangye respectively. The sacred evolution Fire Dragon was the first to fly up from the bottom of the Dragon Valley, followed by Fury's Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon, Jin, and the rest of the Heavenly Stem Holy Disciples. Even Tianji had his own magical beast partner, which was extremely rare in the Tianji lineage. The one who chose Tianji was a 10th tier diamond dragon, and it was also the only 10th tier magical beast among the group. Moreover, this was not arranged by the Dragon Emperor, but the result of them getting to know each other over the past few days. Only Tianji himself knew what had happened. 11 people and 10 powerful magical beasts soared into the sky at the same time. Even in the Dragon Valley, this was considered a majestic sight. When everyone finally flew above the Dragon Valley under the support of their mounts, the giant dragons in the Dragon Valley appeared one after another, and the majestic scene of thousands of dragons dancing together appeared in front of them again. Deafening dragon roars intertwined in the sky and resounded throughout the entire Three Harmony mountain range. The Dragon Emperor hovered above the Dragon Valley with the 4 Dragon Kings, facing Ji Dong and the rest. "Dragon Emperor, we have to go. I don't know when we'll meet again." Ji Dong no longer addressed the Dragon Emperor as senior. The Dragon Emperor was currently in his human form. He looked at Ji Dong and waved his hand, saying, "If that's the case, then hurry up and leave. Don't be so long-winded." "Yes." Ji Dong nodded and said, "Dragon Emperor, although you're the father of Maotai, Wuliangye and Si Dong, I don't see you as a senior in my heart." The Dragon Emperor looked at Ji Dong in confusion. Ji Dong smiled and said, "I see you as a friend. Alright, goodbye, my friend. Let's go." The Saint Evolution Fire Dragon looked at his parents reluctantly, then suddenly sped up and flew into the distance like a bolt of lightning. Ji Dong's voice could be heard from afar. "Dragon Emperor, I can't remember how many times you've tortured me, but I'll definitely spar with you again after I've broken through to the 9th crown." The Dragon Emperor's dimmed eyes lit up as a smile appeared on his face. "Brat, I'll be waiting for you." Although the Heavenly Stem Saints flew into the distance with the help of their mounts, their eyes were still fixed in the direction of the Dragon Valley. They had stayed here for almost a year and were deeply attached to everything in the Dragon Valley. Here, all of them had mounts as companions. They had gotten to know many dragons here, and had become friends with the dragon race. Now that they really had to leave, everyone's hearts were filled with reluctance. Everyone only retracted their gazes when the Dragon Valley could no longer be seen, but they were still in low spirits. At this moment, a layer of golden red light shone from Ji Dong's body and attracted the attention of the heavenly stem saints. Rays of golden red light accurately landed on the foreheads of the heavenly stem saints. In an instant, their perception increased exponentially and everything around them seemed to become transparent. This long-lost feeling made everyone's hearts tremble. A large amount of information was transmitted into their minds through the golden light. The direction of the wind blowing in the sky, the strength of the wind, the concentration of the various elements in the air, and the real-time changes were all presented in great detail. Everything within a 3,000-meter radius was also presented. What shocked them the most was that Ji Dong's immense soul energy, which was as vast as the sea, seemed to have engulfed every single one of them. It's been almost a year since we left the foolish rich chamber of commerce. During this year, each of us has put in a lot of effort, and each of us has made great progress. Let's tell each other what level our cultivation has reached. Ji Dong's deep voice rang out in the ears of all of the heavenly stem holy worshippers as if it had some kind of magical power. Initially, everyone had been a little disappointed by the fact that they had to leave the Dragon Valley, but as his voice gradually became more and more impassioned, they became more and more excited. I, Ji Dong, am a heavenly stem double fire saint. My mana is at level 82. My mount is a sacred evolution fire dragon, rank 9. Ji Dong almost shouted out his level. Being in the sky, they did not need to hold back at all. His shout seemed to be shouting out all the unhappiness and depression in his heart. According to their strength and status, Ajin or Fury should be the next to speak. However, neither of them said anything. Instead, they turned their gazes to Chen Sichuan. This was out of respect for Chen Sichuan. 3 days ago, Chen Sichuan hugged Ji Dong and said those words, which had won everyone over. In everyone's hearts, she was already on the same side as Ji Dong. Chen Sichuan didn't decline. She smiled and nodded to her companions. Chen Sichuan, Heavenly Stem Imu Holy Disciple. Magic Power. Magic Power. Magic Power. Level 79. Magical Beast Companion. At this time, Si Dong was in Chen Sichuan's arms. It gently wriggled a bit. Only Ji Dong knew how strong this so-called Si Dong was. When he faced Lin Qing and Linilei, if it wasn't for Si Dong, he would have been killed. Moreover, Si Dong usually did not say anything, but in fact it could talk. At this time, when Chen Sichuan mentioned it, it gently wriggled in Chen Sichuan's arms to show its existence. Chen Sichuan gently stroked it, and the smile on her pretty face became wider. After Chen Sichuan announced her level, Ajin and Fury looked at each other. Ajin made a gesture of invitation. Fury nodded and said, Fury, Heavenly Stem Thunder Saint. Mana level 85. Mount Purple Thunder Sky Dragon. Ajin, Heavenly Stem Xin Gene Saint. Mana level 89. Mount None. Yao Qianshu, Heavenly Stem First Wood Saint. Mana level 81. Mount Azure Dragon, rank 9. Lang Tian Yi, Heavenly Stem 5th Earth Saint. Mana level 81. Mount Diamond Dragon, rank 9. Miao Miao, Heavenly Stem 6th Earth Saint. Mana level 81. Mount Silver Winged Sea Green, rank 9. Chapter 502. Du Xian Heavenly Stem Gengjin Saint, Magic Power, level 72, Mount Gold Dragon, rank 9. Du Ming, Heavenly Stem Gengshui Saint, Magic Power, level 74, Mount Frost Dragon, rank 9. Lan Bauer, Heavenly Stem Gengshui Saint, Magic Power, level 76, Mount Frost Dragon, rank 9. The last one to speak was Tianji, Mount Diamond Dragon, rank 10. As everyone reported their current magic power levels, Everyone's confidence and condition were adjusted towards the peak. Their eyes were filled with pride. They had relied on their hard work to obtain their current strength. Even Du Exhilarating, who had the lowest magic power, had already reached level 72. All the heavenly stem Gengshui saints had magical beasts that were above rank 9. This kind of strength would be extremely terrifying in any country. Moreover, all of them had ultimate magic power and all 10 attributes, including the ultimate Yang lightning attribute. Ji Dong, Qin Sichuan, Ajin, and Fury even had divine weapons. What they possessed was already a power that even supreme beings would be afraid of. From this moment onwards, the ability to kill the heavenly stem Gengshui saints was truly displayed. Ji Dong's gaze swept across each of his companions, and the golden red light in his eyes shone brightly. He said in a clear voice, "Good, this is our unique strength and the result of our many years of hard work. From this moment onwards we are the saviors of the continent. Everyone is. This is not to boast, but because we will give everything we have for this goal. A person's life only lasts a few decades, and no matter how powerful a demon master is, they only have a few hundred years of life at most. In this limited life, we must live to the fullest and let our lives shine brightly in the long river of history. Next, our goal is the core world. There, I hope that all of us can raise our cultivation to 8 crowns and have our own demon domain. Then, it will be time for us to truly take action for the safety of the radiant 5 elements continent." With just a few simple words, he had already stirred up the emotions of his companions. The sadness caused by leaving the Dragon Valley was gone. The magical beasts collectively sped up and flew in the direction that Ji Dong had pointed out. Their destination this time was Mount Almonds, which was 600 kilometers southwest of Blazing Fire City. There were a few reasons why they chose Mount Almonds instead of the Frost Mountain Range that Ji Dong had learned from the Flaming Bar. Firstly, Mount Almonds was the designated entry point for the Foolish Rich Merchant Association. Secondly, the divine beast guarding the entrance to the core world, the 3-legged golden crow, had already been killed by Ji Dong. It was naturally much easier to enter the core world. However, if they wanted to enter from the Frost Mountain Range, they would definitely have to kill the Frost Dragon Feng Shuang, a level 10 divine beast. It was not that killing it was difficult, but Ji Dong had soaked his body in its blood before, so he more or less owed it a favor. Furthermore, these divine beasts guarding the entrance to the core world were not as simple as preventing outsiders from entering the core world, but also preventing the creatures from the core world from coming out. Therefore, since they already had the option of entering Mount Almonds where the divine beast had been killed, there was no need to open another passage. If the creatures from the core world descended to the human world, wouldn't it be troublesome? Therefore, after careful consideration, Ji Dong chose Mount Almonds as the entrance to the core world. It was naturally closer to the Southern Fire Empire from the West Jin Empire than from the East Wood Empire. However, the 3 Harmony Mountain Range was located at the northernmost border of the West Jin Empire, the North Water Empire, and the Central Earth Empire. Therefore, it was not much closer to the Southern Fire Empire from here. Fortunately, these flying magical beasts were at least level 9. When they sped up in the air, they were as fast as lightning. In addition, the Heavenly Stem Holy Disciples could use the soaring formation in the 5 elements formation to speed them up. After a few days, they had already entered the territory of the Southern Fire Empire. Ji Dong and Qin Sichuan had been to Mount Almonds before. Naturally, they would not go to the wrong place. The Heavenly Evolution Sacred Fire Dragon flew in a straight line towards Mount Almonds. In the distance, Mount Almonds was already in sight. The tall and lonely peak stood proudly. As it had not been long since the lava raged, it was no longer the same as it was when Ji Dong and the others first came here. There were more volcanic ash and rock layers formed by the dried lava. Ji Dong released his soul power. Everyone could see that the golden red light on his body suddenly became more intense. Then, His surging soul power swept in the direction of Mount Almonds in a fan shape. Through the soul scan, Ji-dong realized that there were still some magical beasts on Mount Almonds. However, they were all high-level magical beasts. Furthermore, they could see faint smoke rising from the peak of Mount Almonds. Closer to the peak, the air was clearly distorted by the heat. It was obvious that there had been a new eruption after the previous eruption. However, the scale of the eruption was much smaller. Under the guidance of Ji-dong's soul power, the sacred fire dragon gradually approached the peak of Mount Almonds. The others also controlled their mounts to spread out. This way, everyone would maintain a certain distance from each other. If anything happened, they would be able to unleash their full power. 10 powerful level 9 and 10 magical beasts, most of which were dragons, had descended in the sky above Mount Almonds. The invisible pressure they gave off made the few remaining magical beasts on Mount Almonds not dare to breathe too loudly. All of them vanished, afraid that they would be targeted. When everyone was within 500 meters of the peak of Mount Almonds, they could clearly feel the temperature in the air continue to rise. The fire element also became more intense, while the other magical elements became thinner. Ajin, who was floating in the air, came to the sacred fire dragon's side and said, "Ji-dong, Master once told me that the power of the core world is not just because of the many powerful creatures it has. More importantly, the power of the creatures in the core world will increase exponentially. In that place, the fire element is the densest. Apart from that, the other elements are much thinner and can't compare to the outside world. This is also the place that poses the greatest threat. After everyone enters, we must conserve our mana as much as possible." As Ajin spoke, her gaze vaguely met Chen Sichuan's for a split second. As the ruler of the core world, no one understood it better than Chen Sichuan. What Ajin had said was what Chen Sichuan had told her. With her experience with the flaming bar, Ajin was the most suitable mouthpiece. Naturally, no one would doubt this, nor could they doubt it. Hearing her words, everyone's expressions turned solemn. Although every one of them was quite powerful, possessed ultimate mana, and had the support of powerful magical beasts as mounts, there was a limit to the amount of mana that a mage could store in their body. Without the mana in the air to replenish it, their mana would eventually be exhausted. After entering the core world, they had to keep going deeper. According to what Ajin had said, the deeper they went, the thinner the mana in the air would be. That way, no matter how high their cultivation was, they would not be able to unleash their full potential. Comparatively speaking, earth element mages were in a slightly better situation. After all, there was also earth element in the core world, and fire gave birth to earth, so they would be less affected. However, it was different for the others. They would be greatly affected, and might even lose their ability to fight. Everyone's gazes unconsciously fell on Ji-dong, but they did not see any nervousness on Ji-dong's face. With a smile, Ji-dong said, "I've already considered this problem carefully. Ajin is right. The deeper we go into the core world, the denser the fire element will be, and the weaker the other elements will be. At the deepest layer, the 18th layer, there are no other elements other than the fire element. The fire element there is so dense that it even feels like ultimate mana." "If that's the case, why are you still smiling?" Fury asked gloomily. Ji-dong smiled. "Because I've already thought of a solution to this problem." Fury was stunned, and the others could not help but be surprised. "You've already thought of a solution? What can we do if there are no mana elements in the air? Do we rely on the magical beast cores? That's too much." Whether it was him or the others, they could not think of a solution to the problem of the lack of mana elements in the core world. Ji Xing shook his head and said, "Of course we can't use the crystal cores of magical beasts. Putting aside the fact that we don't have many crystal cores on us, even if we had enough, we wouldn't be able to maintain our fighting strength at all times. We still need time to absorb them. My method is suitable for everyone except you. Senior brother, you have the divine armament, the Thunder Divine Axe. With it and the help of the 5 elements yin-yang world, you should be able to recover your mana. Fury nodded and said, as long as the 5 elements yin-yang boundary exists, I can naturally use the Hell Thunder Divine Axe to help me replenish my mana. However, you haven't told me how to get others to solve the problem. Ji Dong smiled. Actually, I've already taught you this method. Have you forgotten about our 5 elements cycle formation? This 5 elements engendering cycle formation isn't only used in battle, it can also be used in cultivation. That's right, the Earth's core has very few elements other than the fire element, but it's enough as long as there is fire element. After entering the Earth's core, we will immediately complete the engendering cycle. I can continuously absorb the fire element in the air and then transfer it to you, creating a mutual engendering effect that will keep your mana at its peak. As long as your mana doesn't run out, with the help of the engendering mana, why would you need to absorb any external elements? In other words, it's equivalent to me absorbing the fire element and using the 5 elements cycle formation to transform it into the mana element that you need. It's precisely because of this that I've never been in a hurry to let everyone practice the 5 elements cycle formation. Now that we're in the core world, we have to use it even if we don't want to. With this experience, everyone will definitely be familiar with this formation. Everyone couldn't help but be dumbfounded after hearing Ji Dong's explanation. They looked at him as if they were looking at a monster. So it turned out that he had already planned all of this. So it turned out that he had already prepared for a rainy day. Yao Qianshu let out a breath of turbid air. No wonder Tianji said that you're a saint king. Even if you beat me to death, I wouldn't have thought of this method. So the 5 elements cycle formation can be used in this way. In other words, as long as there's a mana element present, none of us will need to worry about the problem of mana drying up. This 5 elements cycle formation of yours is practically a miracle. Everyone nodded in agreement after hearing Yao Qianshu's words. Even Chen Xishuan had not been able to think of a way to solve this problem before. Only after hearing Ji Dong's words did she understand what he was thinking. Everyone's solemn expressions were immediately replaced with relief. Miao Miao said, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's enter the core world quickly." Ji Dong replied, "There's no rush. You all wait here first. I'm of the fire element, so I'll scout the path and find the entrance first. Also, there's something we need to do before we enter." As he spoke, the sacred evolution fire dragon's body had already swayed, flying towards the peak of Almond's mountain below. Chen Xishuan stood on the head of the 5 grains liquor, so she naturally went down with Ji Dong. She asked curiously, "Ji Dong, you said there's something else we need to do. What is it?" Ji Dong glanced at her. Ever since that day, the two of them had become closer. Although Ji Dong had deliberately kept his distance from Chen Xishuan could feel that he actually had no resistance against her. It was only because his heart was already filled with the flaming bar that he could not tolerate Chen Xishuan. Every time she recalled how Ji Dong was in so much pain because of the flaming bar, she no longer had any other request. She only hoped that they could continue to be like this. She would be satisfied as long as she could be by his side. The sacred evolution fire dragon descended and a faint halo of extreme flames was released from its body, protecting Ji Dong, Chen Xishuan, and itself. At that moment, they had already entered the smoke above the volcano. Ji Dong had lived 2 lives, so of course he knew that the smoke was poisonous. Although they did not care about the poison at their cultivation level, it was still better to be careful. At that moment, a strong sense of danger suddenly appeared in Ji Dong's soul. Chapter 503. This sense of danger was extremely sudden. Chen Xishuan felt it as soon as Ji Dong's mind moved. Without any communication, Ji Dong had already punched through the air. Chen Xishuan's figure flashed, and she jumped from the Wuliangye to the Maotai. She arrived behind Ji Dong and grabbed Ji Dong's shoulders with both hands. Pure E-wood mana was directly injected into Ji Dong's body. In fact, Ji Dong knew that Chen Xishuan's actual combat ability was not weak, but she was clearly unwilling to fight on her own. She was more of a supporting role, and he was already very used to this feeling. Ji Dong punched out, and a dazzling golden light suddenly exploded. He was not trying to resist the danger, but to disperse the thick fog around him so that he could find the source of the danger. The sacred evolution fire dragon and Ji Dong's minds were connected. At the same time that Ji Dong made his move, its huge body also twisted violently. Its entire body was like a whip in the air, and the mana within it exploded instantly. Coupled with its tyrannical physical strength, there was an explosion in the air that sounded like thunder. At the same time that the sacred evolution fire dragon released its great yen tail, Ji Dong clearly felt a huge body sweep past the sacred evolution fire dragon. It was precisely because of the sacred evolution fire dragon's sudden burst that the huge body could not lock onto their previous position, and thus passed by. A smear of shock flashed across Ji Dong's eyes. He wasn't shocked by the strength of the attacker, but by the ability of the attacker to conceal himself. It must be known that his spiritual force had been activated the entire time, yet the attacker was able to sneak up on him without him noticing. Just this point alone was enough to shock him. Under the intense effect of the ultimate yang fire, all the dust in the air was vaporized. The huge body swept past, and Ji Dong could vaguely see its appearance. The sacred derivation fire dragon's body had already exceeded 20 meters in length. It was considered huge among magical beasts, but compared to this fellow, it paled in comparison. That huge body felt like a huge fish, its entire body smooth, with a special kind of grayish-purple color. There were no wrinkles on the surface of its skin, and it was bright and tough. The sudden movement of the sacred derivation fire dragon had caused the tail hammer to sweep a little on its body, but what Ji Dong saw was that the smooth skin of this fellow was rippling like water, and it was not injured at all. What is this thing? Doubt appeared in Ji Dong's mind, and Chen Xishuan subconsciously shouted from behind, "It's a demonic smoke pufferfish." The sacred evolution fire dragon had suddenly sped up and rushed out of the smoke above the volcano. It floated in the air, and the huge fellow did not chase after it. Ji Dong stood on the head of the Moutai, and his eyes were fixed on the smoke above the volcano as thoughts flashed through his mind. At this moment, the other heavenly stem holy disciples had also gathered around. They had clearly seen the appearance of the smoke and clouds below them, and then the sacred evolution fire dragon had rushed out. It was obvious that something had happened. "Ji Dong, what's going on?" Fury asked loudly. Ji Dong shook his head and asked Chen Xishuan behind him, "You mentioned a demonic smoke pufferfish just now. What is it? Why have I never heard of this magical beast?" Chen Xishuan's heart tightened. The reason why she knew about this magical beast was obviously because she was the flaming bar, and the demonic smoke pufferfish was unique to the core world. She did not think too much, and immediately replied, "I've read about this magical beast in an ancient book in the palace. Although I only caught a glimpse of it just now, from its size, color, and characteristics, it should be a demonic smoke pufferfish." Chen Xishuan's words also attracted the curiosity of the other heavenly stem holy disciples, and they asked, "Xishuan, what kind of magical beast is this demonic smoke pufferfish? Even you and Ji Dong can't do anything to it." Ji Dong replied, "It's not that there's no way, but there's a large amount of smoke mixed with volcanic ash down below, and I can't see what's inside clearly. Furthermore, this demonic smoke pufferfish that Xishuan mentioned is extremely good at hiding its aura, and even my soul detection couldn't detect it. If it wasn't for the sense of danger I felt, I might have really been ambushed by this fellow." Chen Xishuan said, "The demonic smoke pufferfish is a magical beast unique to the core world. According to the ancient book I've read, it rarely appears in the surface world. The author of the book was interested in it after he accidentally saw it, and conducted a lot of research on it. It's a rather powerful magical beast, and it's of the fire attribute, but it's not pure. It's a mutated one. A mutated fire attribute magical beast? Fury and Ji Dong looked at each other. They couldn't help but think of the magical beast that had mutated because of the Thunder Divine Axe's corpse on Evil Saint Island. Chen Sichuan nodded slightly and continued, "This demonic smoke pufferfish is extremely special. From the size and abilities of the one we just encountered, it should be an adult demonic smoke pufferfish. It's a Class 10 magical beast, and its body should be around 3 to 5 meters long." "Wait a moment." Ji Dong interrupted Qin Sichuan in confusion. "Sichuan, you said that it's only 3 to 5 meters long? That can't be right. I clearly felt that it was larger than Maotai and Wuliangye." Qin Sichuan shook her head and said, "It's true that you feel that it's big, but that's not its original appearance. The reason why this demonic smoke pufferfish said that its ability is a mutation is because other than the fire attribute, it also has a special attribute or ability, and that is the Qi attribute." "The Qi attribute?" The Heavenly Stem holy disciples couldn't help but be surprised when they heard that. Qin Sichuan said, "The demonic smoke pufferfish likes to devour and absorb all sorts of harmful gases. It can filter these gases through its body and obtain the energy that's beneficial to it to evolve. At the same time, these gases can protect it and conceal its abilities. The demonic smoke pufferfish's skin is extremely tough. It's a foot thick, and it's extremely malleable. After absorbing a large amount of gas, its body will expand like a balloon. Under those circumstances, it can still maintain its agility." Ji Dong suddenly said, "So that's how it is. No wonder I felt that its body was so huge just now. Then, what kind of attack does this demonic smoke pufferfish have?" Chen Sichuan said, "Its tough skin can basically block attacks of any attribute. It's better than the scales of any living creature, and it's immune to all kinds of attributes, even if it's an ultimate attribute. This is also the main reason why it can become a Class 10 divine beast. However, its attacks are relatively few, with only 3. The first is to use its sharp, slender mouth to attack with its speed and weight. This is its innate skill, piercing. Once it pierces someone, it will quickly inject a large amount of poisonous gas into the enemy's body, instantly killing them. This should be the method it used to attack us before. The second method is to use its poisonous gas to directly attack. It can control the poisonous gas to change into various forms. This gas has been accumulated for who knows how many years. Not only can it corrode our bodies, it can even corrode our energy. The last method of attack comes from the soul. In a certain sense, the demonic smoke pufferfish can be considered a spiritual-type magical beast. It can emit a special kind of spiritual ripples that can disrupt the enemy's thoughts and brain, causing them to lose the ability to resist. We don't need to worry about this. With your saint-tier spiritual force, its spiritual ripples are naturally useless." Hearing Chen Sichuan's detailed explanation, the Heavenly Stem holy disciples could not help but smile. With their strength, if they still couldn't deal with their opponent after knowing their opponent's abilities, then they were not worthy of being called Heavenly Stem holy disciples. Even if their opponent was a Class 10 divine beast, it was nothing. Yao Qianshu smiled. "The power of knowledge is great. Fortunately, Sichuan is knowledgeable and knows about this kind of magical beast. Otherwise, if we were to fight it rashly, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to get away with it." Ji Dong said, "The 3-legged golden crow was originally guarding the peak of Mount Almonds. After I killed the 3-legged golden crow, the core world should have discovered it. It's probably because of this that they sent this magical beast to guard it. Looks like if we don't take care of it, we won't be able to enter." Fury chuckled and said, "Let me do it. I haven't exercised in a long time, and my hands are itching." Ji Dong smiled. "When we enter the core world, are you afraid that there won't be a place for Big Brother to display his abilities? According to Sichuan's introduction of this magical beast, Big Brother is not suitable to deal with it. Since this demonic smoke pufferfish's body is so tough and malleable, then its skin must be composed of a large amount of gelatinous material. Coupled with the large amount of volcanic ash it has absorbed, it should have quite a bit of immunity to your lightning. Against this balloon-like magical beast, the sharpness of the metal element is clearly more suitable. Du Ming Bauer. Teacher, Du Ming hurriedly answered, and Lon Bauer also nodded at Hyoheim. Ji Dong said, "You two support me. Ah Jean, you go ahead. I'll hold the line for you." "All right." Ah Jean nodded in agreement. In the next moment, Du Ming, Lon Bauer, and Ah Jean immediately felt their souls move slightly. They had already connected with Ji Dong's soul, and their senses increased exponentially. The reason why Ji Dong had allowed Ah Jean to attack was after some consideration. Firstly, Ah Jin's element just happened to counter the defensive abilities of this demonic smoke pufferfish. Secondly, he also wanted to see what level Ah Jin's abilities had reached after his Dragon Clan bloodline had awakened. Amongst the 5 elements, fire countered metal. If Ah Jin attacked alone, he would obviously encounter some trouble. However, with Du Ming and Lon Bauer's help, there would naturally not be too much of a problem. Water countered fire, and at the same time, water also countered smoke. Ji Dong did not say anything else, and Chen Sichuan also released her grip on his shoulder. However, the two of their souls instantly merged together, and a powerful spiritual power pressed down towards the top of the volcano's crater. The spiritual pressure of a saint was instantly raised to its peak. At the same time, Lon Bauer and Du Ming also received instructions from Ji Dong through their souls. The two of them looked at each other, and in the next moment, they had already taken action. The Frost Dragon and the Frost Dragon danced in the sky at the same time. Although the area around Mount Almonds was extremely dense with fire elements, the water elements in the air immediately became denser with the cooperation of the 2 water-type heavenly stem saints and their respective magical beasts. Lon Bauer's body shone with a crystalline purple light, while Du Ming's body was surrounded by a dense black air current. The 9th water and 9th water divine beasts displayed their might at the same time, and in the sky, large patches of clouds began to condense. The other heavenly stem saints all retreated far away, watching the battle before them. They were all sincerely convinced by Ji Dong's arrangements. Only when their elements countered each other could they obtain the greatest victory with the smallest price. Large patches of dark clouds gradually formed, and it was extremely easy for the 2 water-type heavenly stem saints and the 2 9th water dragons to work together to create a rainstorm. Even though the air was filled with fire elements, and even though the temperature at the peak of Mount Almonds was extremely high, it could not stop their actions. The dense, dark clouds covered the sky, and the dense water elements did not cool down the air. Instead, it made the air even more stifling. Lon Bauer shouted softly, and in the next moment, the dark clouds in the sky immediately churned. One could clearly see that the colors of the dark clouds were different. The black clouds naturally came from the ability of the heavenly stem 9th water saint, Du Ming, while the purple clouds naturally belonged to the heavenly stem 9th water saint, Lon Bauer. Their cultivation had already broken through 7 crowns, and under their full power, the 2 different colored clouds collided and rubbed against each other in the sky. Following a series of flashes of lightning, the next moment, a torrential rain fell from the sky. This was not ordinary rain, but a torrential rain that was a mixture of ultimate 9th water and ultimate 6th water mana. Every drop of rain contained an abundance of ultimate mana, and the temperature was extremely low. When the torrential rain fell, the temperature at the peak of Mount Almonds dropped drastically, and steam rose in all directions. The smoke on the peak of the mountain quickly disappeared when it encountered the torrential rain. Although there was still a large amount of water mist, the thick volcanic ash rapidly weakened. At this moment, a sharp sound suddenly rang out from the cloud of smoke. Then, thousands of dark red arrows shot out from the cloud of smoke that was about to disappear, heading straight for Du Ming and Lon Bauer in the air. the demonic smoke pufferfish finally couldn't help but attack. Without a large amount of volcanic ash as a barrier and replenishment, its power would be greatly reduced. Hence, it had to deal with Lan Bao and Du Ming's reign. The volcanic ash was still continuously being released from the crater of the volcano, and as long as it dealt with them, its barrier would still exist. Unfortunately, it was up against the heavenly stem saint. When the demonic smoke pufferfish launched its attack, Jidong's spiritual detection had already accurately grasped the changes within, and immediately alerted Lan Bao and Du Ming.